All right, King Killers, we're covering Chapter 15 of the Wave Kings in this episode. We discuss the aftermath of the chasmfiend battle, dive into Alethi culture and the dynamic between Sadeas and the Kholins. Then we also find out what Adolin thinks of everyone's looks. He is not impressed. And Elhokar asks Dalinar what he's been doing for him lately, 5 minutes after Dalinar just saved his life. And you're going to discover a very surprising aspect of Alethi fashion. So sit back and enjoy. All right, welcome back to the King Killer Podcast. I'm Dan. Also, you could think of me as like the final season of Breaking Bad of podcast hosts. And I got with me Tim, who's basically like the final season of Lost of podcast hosts.
No. I'm episode 1 of Breaking Bad. How about that?
It's kind of a weak one.
What are you out of your fucking mind?
As far as Breaking Bad shows?
You're crazy. Season
1 is easily the worst season.
I said episode 1.
Episode 1 is not that great.
You're out of your mind.
You're a
crazy person.
It's good. It's good compared to other TV shows.
How about
compared to Breaking Bad episodes? It's not even in the top 10.
I'm the episode where Bill Burr plays interference at the train track. And they have to unload the train of, I don't know, whatever the liquid is.
You're kind of like his brother-in-law.
Bill Burr's brother-in-law?
No. Yeah, exactly. In real life. His real-life brother-in-law.
I don't know who that is.
I don't either. But you're exactly like him. No, you're like Walter White's brother-in-law, personality-wise. That's how I think of you.
Wow. Hank?
Yeah, Hank. Yeah, I think of you as like you, personality-wise, you're exactly like Hank. Or his wife. You're kind of like his wife.
Really good at math?
Yeah, you can add stuff. You can count money. Count money like a son of a bitch.
To be honest with you, math is not my strong suit, so... Neither of those comparisons really hold up very well. And I want to say I think our example has probably run its course. Kind of derailed early on. But, I'll say I am the Ozark. How about that? I am the Ozark of podcast hosts. Boom. In your grill.
Yeah, like as far as compared, and I'm the Breaking Bad, so like you're kind of like a step down. Solid, but step down, definitely step down.
Yeah, maybe that's a step down. I don't know. I'd have to put a lot of thought into it. They're both very good.
Yeah, very, very good. I love Ozark. Very good show.
Is this podcast about television shows?
Yes. Yes.
Have we switched format here?
Yeah. Let's get an update on where you're at in the book.
The last, so the chapter I'm on right now, Kaladin is training to try to be able to fight like Zeth. And he's trading with, basically right now he's in, what the fuck? The Shattered Plains, the Chasms, whatever, with Syl trying to like run up walls and shit. And she's kind of heckling him in a way. Like the last thing I remember is she's like, yeah, it wasn't so good. Maybe you should try this or that. And he's, whatever. And the chapter before that was Shallan and Adolin. They were having a little dinner, drinking some wine, and sitting on the balcony, which I guess is like a new thing where they watch the high storms come in.
Yeah.
And then they take off right as the high storm comes in. And a real fantastic part of conversation between them where she asked him about shitting his pants.
Yeah, that's so great.
Shark plate. Dude, their conversation's great, man. It's so good. And then peppered in there is a little romance novel of, oh, those eyes.
Yeah.
Oh, that smile. Oh my goodness. She's like fluttering her eyelashes. Like you can picture. She's like, It's pretty funny.
Have you got to the part where Kaladin is a chaperone?
I'm not 100% sure if I have. There's a part where he confronts her about his boots. I do remember that because she took his boots when she was with that one.
But there would have been like a carriage ride with Wit.
No, I definitely haven't. I haven't read that yet. Sounds like I'm probably close, but
yeah,
I would. I feel like I would definitely remember Wit because I don't think I've read.
It's a real small. It's a real small part of. It's a real small part of the scene. He's not like, central to that scene. He's just in it. But
that's kind of typical for him. The only one where he's so far where I've been reading where he's prevalent is with the flute, with Dalinar or with Kaladin with the flute. Is it Kaladin, right? Or is it Dalinar?
No, it's Kaladin. Yeah, it's Kaladin when he's like walking out on the fucking Shattered Plains.
Yeah, that's the only one where it's really prevalent. Like he's in this chapter, but it's pretty short. Oh yeah, and then before this, he was ragging on Dalinar's youngest son,
Renarin.
Yeah, he was ragging on Renarin, and that was short too. So, but yeah, when he comes in, man, he's a hell of a performer. He's like George, man. He leaves on a high note.
Yeah.
He's very good.
He's got some great stuff. I love I love that fucking part where she's asking him about how he fucking shits in the shard plate. That's classic. Unlike Rothfuss, who is that's a central part of the Kingkiller Chronicles, is the bathroom break mystery. He makes it abundantly clear that they are dropping deuces and taking peas.
What's going to be interesting is when book 3 drops, Rothfuss on page 2. In the first chapter after the prologue,
it's going to be Kavoth on the fucking shitter.
Giving notes to Bast and Chronicler.
Describing taking a dump and pissing in detail.
And how it works in the world.
Because he's listening to our podcast and like, dude, I'm done with this. I'm putting this theory to bed. On page 1.
I do have to say, like, when Adolin's like, well, at times I'm being wiped by others, which is pretty awkward. or he's like, 4 times I've shit and just pretended it didn't happen.
Yeah.
He's
like,
it's so gross. Getting out of the shard plate afterwards. His leg.
Yeah. It's fucking gross. Gnarly.
It's one thing to be like sweaty and bloody after battle, but sweaty, bloody, covered in like piss and shit over your legs and feet. That's pretty gross.
Yeah, you should drop one before you start the fight, and then you should be fine.
Yeah, I mean, one would think, but I don't know. I don't know how long the battles last. Maybe it brings it out of them. At least 4 times it has. You think you have a routine down,
I feel like
right?
I could. I feel like I could hold it for like a day.
I feel like I could hold it if I was in that type of circumstance.
Yeah.
I mean, because I hold it in the circumstances I'm in now.
Yeah.
They're not as high pressure situations as a battle with the Parshendi, but
I've had long periods of time where I had to hold it, but Adolin, he's willing to do it.
He's not big on holding it, dude. He's all about getting it out. Well, and I guess if you have people wiping your ass for you, then maybe you're kind of spoiled in that sense.
Yeah, because the
second
would make
it worse. Pressure, it goes right out.
Yeah, like, oh no, time out, guys, it's happening again. Like, really?
It's happening,
dude. Every fucking fight. Like, we've been here for like 15 minutes.
It's funny, actually, when he explains it, and there's a couple times, they take breaks during the battle.
Yeah.
Right? And they get, like, refreshments and stuff. It almost reminded me of, like, a hockey game.
Yeah.
Where it's like they come off, and then another shift goes in, and they come back off. But, I don't see a lot of hockey players getting their asses wiped.
Yeah, when I read about, like, that, and they talk about it, like, during book 1, in this book, they have parts where, like, they stop, take a break, and are sitting there talking to each other. While the fight's still going on around him, the guard surrounds him and shit and protects him. so they can take a break. But I'm curious, like, how realistic that is, like, compared to, old time battles with knights back in the day.
Yeah, I guess you could literally, if you're on top of a horse, you could just kind of go off the battlefield.
Yeah, but not many people were on horses. Like, they had
you said
cavalry.
knight, so that's why I was bringing it up. But I don't know. Who knows? Maybe they have horses on the
I'm
side.
I'm talking about like guys fighting hand to hand combat, like on the fields. Like, are they taking breaks?
Yeah, I think they basically just wave a flag up, and then they bring a horse. He gets on the horse, jets out, takes a little break, comes back.
Yeah, I'm curious if that's like a real thing in historical fights, because obviously they don't show that in movies because that's not going to be entertaining. But I'm curious if that actually happens, or if it's something he just came up with on his own.
That's actually a good reason to train large birds. They could come in and just grab you up, take you off, and then drop you back.
Lord of the Rings, like the
do they have that or something?
Giant hawks that like come and scoop guys up.
Do they have that in Lord of the Rings? Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, the third movie ends with that. Like, Frodo and the Sam getting picked up by the big hawks.
I don't.
Eagles. The Eagles. That was it.
I just remember. I hate the Eagles. They're terrible.
But we are going to be going through chapter 15 in this episode, The Decoy. And in this, we get the aftermath of the chasmfiend battle. And we get a little bit of the dynamic between Dalinar and Sadeas, as well as learn some more about Elhokar's paranoia as he pretends that someone tried to assassinate him.
Yeah, as a whole, it's very much Sadeas, Adolin, Dalinar, like what's going on there, what's going on with like the tension with Elhokar and kind of that history. It's all kind of wrapped together as they deal with, the aftermath of what happened with the chasmfiend, but then also Adolin's paranoia and everything else. But yeah, there's a lot. There's a whole lot of. It's a long chapter. Maybe the one that's definitely the longest we've come across.
And
the beginning, is this Wit?
Yeah. It's you remember, like I told you, when this part 2 starts, it's a letter that Wit wrote to a dragon, and so the first part is Wit's. It's each part is like the next part of the letter.
Okay, he's a great troll. This guy Wit.
Yeah,
the way he states things are very, he's like the ultimate troll.
Yeah,
that's great.
Yeah, and so it starts off with, Wit, you do not agree with my quest. I understand that, so much as it is possible to understand someone with whom I disagree so completely. So again, like through this letter, you learn that Wit he's got some big motivation going on. It's not, like the day-to-day stuff that they're concerned about does not seem to be something that is a big concern of his. It seems he's got, a much bigger agenda than what they account for.
Would you say he has much bigger fish to fry?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, he likes fish fries.
Fried fish.
Yeah, he likes fish fries. The parties, fish fry parties.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
But yeah, and then so we get the start off on the chapter. The 4 hours after the chasmfiend attack, Adolin was still overseeing the cleanup. In the struggle, the monster had destroyed the bridge leading back to the war camps. Fortunately, some soldiers had been left on the other side, and they'd gone to fetch another bridge. So they're kind of just chilling, waiting for these guys to go get a bridge to bring them back over so they can go home. And that's kind of the setting of, for the kind of camp dynamics that you get in this chapter.
Yeah, I feel like Adolin would say, "Can someone go get the bridge boy? Bring him over here."
Yeah, if he knew him.
Oh yeah, I guess he doesn't know him.
Yeah,
but yeah,
And then, and then to Adolin's left, long lines of men lay in rows using cloaks or shirts as pillows on the ragged plateau surface. Surgeons from Dalinar's army tended them. Adolin blessed his father for always bringing the surgeons, even on routine expeditions like this one. And then there's Elhokar, who's running around, slapping ass, fucking throwing cigars in everybody's face.
Spraying everybody with champagne as they lay on the ground with their wounds. Great job out there, guys. We did it. We did it. Or he'd be going, I did it. I did it with your help.
Me.
Also, I did like Adolin blessed his father for always bringing the surgeons. It keeps sort of ratcheting towards Dalinar is 100% Kaladin's guy. This is the person he was looking for all along that he wanted to fight under. You know what I mean? Like, because this is what Kaladin did with when he was leading, right? The biggest difference was all his soldiers knew they would be cared for if they got hurt. Not only would the other soldiers protect them while they're hurt, afterwards he would get them attention.
Yeah, we find out, because he even talks about like they have their debate over the bridges. So you learn specifically that all the things that Kaladin's concerned about, Dalinar expresses. And then also we get the casualty report, and we find out that there were 50 men dead, twice as many wounded. Many were men Adolin had known. And so, and then when the king had been given the initial estimates, he had brushed aside the deaths, indicating that they'd be rewarded for their valor with positions in heraldic forces above. So, he kind of does treat it like this. Fuck it, man. They'll be good.
No, yeah, I feel like 100%.
Fucking party in the afterlife.
Yeah.
So we'll party here while they party out there.
Like when he's told the dead and wounded, he's like, worth it.
Yeah.
Immediately. Yeah. No hesitation. Worth it. Yeah, like they're partying in the afterlife. They died a hero's death. Honor them.
They're drinking more champagne than us. Pour some out for them.
Actually, the whole honor them, he didn't even go that far. He basically ignored the fact that they all died. He's just like, yeah, whatever. Worth
Someone
it.
Else
totally
will honor
cool.
Him.
Yeah. Yeah.
We also get a little bit of the technology that they got, because they have these several large rubies glowed brightly set atop poles that work golden tines holding them in place. They were fabrials that gave off heat, though there was no fire involved. So they got little heat warmers in the society. It's kind of interesting, like some of the technology that they have as you go through the series. Like it gets pretty fucking advanced. Like the different fucking tech that they come up with throughout.
One of them is that sort of fax machine fucking pen that basically writes the message in live time as it's being written elsewhere.
Yeah.
And they just go back and forth.
Yeah.
Little emails.
Little Wi-Fi Etch-a-Sketch.
Yeah. Etch-a-Sketch.
But yeah, so they got pretty cool fucking tech, and it's a nice little cheat, because when you have like a world that is like so backwaters, as far as so back in time, where they don't have a lot of, they don't have oil, so they don't have like cars, or it doesn't seem like they have gunpowder or any of that kind of stuff. They don't have guns or they're not making artillery really. So like you're getting a straight swords and shields type of society as far as fighting, but then you throw in this technology and the magic and stuff, and it advances society where you could do most of the things you could do in like a current time, you're able to do back then through little shortcuts through the magic and the tech.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. So rather than having like coal or steam power or anything like that, they don't use gasoline, like you said. They don't have oil, so it's all just kind of magic, right? It's fabrials and it's gem hearts and all those types of things. But what's interesting is those things can also produce food and shelter.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I
So
mean. Like if this was like if you take this world and you just have horses and knights and swords and shields and their caravans to carry the food, the battle that they're fighting, it would not be possible. It's not
they couldn't
sustainable.
sustain themselves. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
they would not. The supply trains that would be involved, someone would have. You take too many casualties in one battle, and it's over because you're
Well, and
just
we
not going to be
find
able to replenish like the cost it would take to feed and sustain an army without the magic system, without the soulcasters. It's not possible.
Well, I feel like we find out here. I don't think we knew before this that the Parsheni's basically been surrounded for 6 years,
Yeah.
right? So like you say, they'd be cut off. They don't have a supply line. So how would they sustain themselves? And it's because of the gem hearts. So it becomes all about gem hearts.
Yeah, and I mean, and now, like, I don't know. There's obviously there's been wars that are long lasting back in those kind of times, but they're not these sustained battles where they're just taking massive casualties constantly on a such a consistent basis, where the replenishing of the army and the amount of food that they're taking is just too much. Like you look at this kind of society that they built around this, it just doesn't seem like it could be possible without the magic system. I don't think you could.
It doesn't seem like it. Yeah, I mean, and that's again, it kind of gets emphasized that it's all about the gem hearts for. I don't want to say 100% for both ends, but that's what it becomes, which is kind of, and it gets sort of emphasized as well. It's pretty ironic because the whole point of all of this was what happened to damn it, Elhokar's father. Why do I always forget these names? Gabalar. So it's all about basically revenge and the breaking of that pact.
Yeah.
But then it's not. It's just all about gem hearts is what it really comes down to. And then it becomes a competition between the high princes for gem hearts. So it's completely gets removed from what the original purpose was.
Which makes sense.
Like,
I mean, like when you look at what the gem hearts are able to accomplish, what you're able to do with them, it would. I mean, just the greed factor would take
well,
hold.
and also it does seem like culturally that's the Alethi's thing is competition, right?
Yeah.
So drive at what they've been programmed to be motivated by. That makes sense as well if you're trying to excel. Within basically what they're doing is do it through competition. I mean, and we do that in our own lives just perpetually, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I like the fact that what the technology and the magic lets them do, and I mean a lot of the things just wouldn't be possible without it. So it definitely, that's one of the benefits that fantasy series have is the magic and the tech allows you to kind of do combinations between adding things in that we have in our current world that just wouldn't exist back then, and being able to kind of implement those kind of things and then seeing in a different and unique way where like the Etch a Sketch with Wi-Fi Etch a Sketch machine, but like those kind of things where you get these interesting, basically a telephone, but it's different, and so you get these kind of, you still have that same effect where they can communicate over long distances, so you don't lose that, and then you have to write where messages are going through with carrier pigeons and shit like that, where you have to do all these workarounds and shit to have those kind of things in the world. With the magic system, you can just create a magic that allows it to happen. So it's always an interesting element in fantasy series that what magic and technology are able to do through as basically like writing props.
Yeah, it's a cool way to be able to also put limitations within the world, but like you said, you can mix these interesting pieces of history where it can be medieval times, yet they can still communicate over wide areas if they have, like you said, carrier pigeons, right? Or, different types of technologies that mix in the world Yeah, it's pretty cool because they you create your own limitations as well.
Yeah.
So Sanderson does a pretty cool job with it. At least thus far, I don't see huge flaws or anything.
And then we find out, Dalinar is through his little badass maneuver of catching the chasm fiend's claw, and he, looks like a freaking superhero at that point. And so that's got some of these other light eyes to kind of step more lightly around him, and they're not as openly mocking him as they were just, earlier that day.
Yeah, it's interesting how that gets delivered because it kind of gets told to us that Adolin is worried that the Blackthorn's return is going to fade, right? And Adolin's even talking or sort of explaining that because we switch narrators. He does that quite a bit, but we basically switch narrators, and Adolin's basically thinking, "This is the guy I heard about. This is my father, who I read about, who I haven't seen nearly as much as his legend, and every now and then he gets to see it, and that's what he saw. That's what he just saw. That's what everybody else witnessed. And yeah, his fear is it's back. That legend is back, and it's being reinvigorated. But how long will it last?
Well, yeah, and we see it doesn't last. I mean, people immediately go back to fucking shitting on him, especially after that first storm where he has to go through it in like the little barracks, with all the other soldiers that see him having his little spaz out episode while he's dreaming. Like that completely, it lets everybody know that the rumors are true, and so that hurts his reputation a lot. But yeah, we see like basically, I mean, it's such a warlike society where if you're not constantly fighting, you're not doing King of the Hill shit, then the respect just disappears.
Yeah, it's pretty brutal little culture they have.
And so it ends up with Adolin, still felt he was missing something about the man. He was looking at Sadeas, something his father saw, but he did not. Something his father saw, but he didn't. So steeling himself for the barbs, he made his way toward the pavilion. And then we're in Dalinar's head, where talks about Dalinar faced eastward with gauntleted hands clasped behind his back. Somewhere out there at the center of the plains, the Parshendi made their base camp. So it talks about a number of times, like Adolin's always like, I wonder what the fuck he's thinking about when he's staring over the edge. And then, then we're in Dalinar's head, and he's just thinking about the Parshendi, and he's like, man, I wish we could fucking end this. Wish I knew where they were, and we could just put an end to this stupid shit.
It's pretty cool too that we get basically a couple repetitions within the chapter of I think it's right here initially where Dalinar's plan was sound. It just it what eventually happened was what they thought the war was going to be ends up evolving into a war of attrition on the part of the Parshendi, where it's all about the gem hearts, and if they can outpace them, then they can eventually just beat them. But yeah, it's been 6 years, so it's getting to the point where it's like, is this ever going to end?
Yeah, and the Parshendi picked a great spot to make a last stand, because you get that, they're because they're on the shattered plains, and you got all these little chasms that you got to kind of cross over. It creates a barrier where to get to them, to find them, would take a long period of time, where you'd be out in the middle of these high storms. And so you would have limited defense against that and limited protection. And so you would be vulnerable to attack. And so it's a risky position to go and hunt them down. Now, you would think over 6 years that you would send out scouting parties and you would find their base. Might not be something that you could openly attack, but you would think that they would have already found it by now, but they haven't.
I was thinking
the high storms obviously put massive limitations.
I was thinking the same thing about the chasm fiends as well, because we learn there's a much easier way to get the gem hearts when they go to the peaks or whatever. They just kind of chill out and wait. for the high storm to come, and it charges up their gym heart or whatever. So basically, what it becomes is these scouts go out, they find the chasmfiend, and they blow a horn. It seems like you'd have a chance if the scout finds it, ride back, then tell them, rather than just blowing a horn, because then it becomes a race because everybody hears it, right? So the Parshindi's racing the Alethi, and they're trying to get.
I'm sure the Parshindi have their own scouts. I
yeah.
doubt.
I was thinking the same thing, but page them. Send a Facebook update.
Yeah.
Just let them know that way, rather than blowing that horn.
Yeah, the Shattered Plains would be massive, so you couldn't just like blow a horn and that's gonna notify. There's got to be like a system that from one person to the next down the line that the notification is going through, because it's a massive area. Otherwise, you would be able to, if you could just blow a horn, you could see the Parshindi from easily. Because if it's that small of a distance where the sound is able to cover, you can cover the distance with sound easily, then finding the Parshindi should be easy.
They are plains, so there's not a lot of encumbrances to cut the sound down, right? It's not trying to cut through mountains.
But like I said, if you can just blow a horn, and that's no matter where you're at, you can blow a horn and they're going to hear it, then you would be able to find it's a small area that you should be able to find the Parshindi after 6 years. But this is basically like a country. Like you look at it on the map, the Shattered Plains is like a country. It's a massive area. So it's not just like some tiny area, but and maybe more, I get, like a state, like maybe a state. I don't know exactly how big it would be, like miles wise, because they can seem to cover the distance over. Sometimes it takes days to cover certain distances on the Shattered Plains, but
it seems pretty.
It's pretty
the terrain's big. Pretty rocky, so there's also that. It's not super easy to travel across,
but it's a pretty big area. It's not easy to find. If it has to be, because you would be able to find where the Parshindi is after 6 years. It has to be a massive area. Yeah, and so you get like his initial plan was they were going to kind of just outlast the Parshindi, just take them out in small skirmishes, battling, box them in so that they can't escape, and then just kind of pick them apart while they can't get supplies and they can't refresh troops, while the Alethi have the open area behind them, they can replenish all their troops. They box them in where they're not going to be able to replenish troops, and they think, they're not going to have a supply line, they're going to be stuck. What they weren't counting on is that the Parshindi were like, this is our fucking Alamo, and everybody is going here, and we're going to fucking just, there's no need to replenish troops because we're all going to be in the same spot. And so they were prepared for this, and they had obviously supplies. They prepared this spot specifically for their last stand so that they can, they can manage, they can last.
Seems like that'd be the more brutal position, but yeah, they were willing to hunker down and, like you said, make it the Alamo.
Yeah, and obviously they didn't feel they had a better option. I mean, if they did, they would have went somewhere else. But yeah, they picked a spot, and it's for what they're trying to do. I mean, it's worked to an extent where Dalinar initially thought they would be able to kind of starve them out pretty quickly, and it's taken them 6 years, and he's sitting there thinking, this could take another 6 years.
Yeah.
We've cut out a quarter of their forces. We've killed a lot of them, but we still don't even know where they're at.
Well, and I don't know if it's jumping ahead or it's not necessarily Dalinar, but Kaladin who realizes it, but they're much more formidable soldiers, than, at least I feel like as a reader, I start to learn that over time. It seems like they were underestimated initially to a degree. Right. At least, I don't know. That's the impression I got. So that could be part of it as well, as these guys are much more formidable than was originally accounted for, perhaps.
Yeah, and well, they, to an extent, they fight kind of stupid sometimes too. Like
They fight in unison.
Yeah, they fight like
as an
2x2s, where it's not like whereas like Dalinar's army is fighting as a single unit, and they're all fighting together, and they're bringing guys out to rest and bringing replacements in. These guys are all like just 2-on-2 everything.
But also they got those hops.
Yeah. I mean, they got mad hops from wearing the moon boots, moon shoes,
skeleton armor.
Yeah, they got massive calf muscles.
It's all about in basketball and in battle, it's all about your hops, right? It's all about that vertical leap.
That's always important, especially in sword fights, because you want to be able to jump really high. But so like
you jump in mid sword fight and yell alley-oop.
Yeah,
right. That's what people do.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of times like you're fighting a sword, you drop a sword, and then you got to like jump over the guy, and someone else throws you a sword and catch it in midair, and then stab down. Like so, that stuff happens. Like that happens in fights. It's something that happened a lot in history. Is guys had to like jump over another guy, catch a sword, stab him in the top of the head. So
I love this knack of saying that's something that happened a lot in history to explain anything away.
Yeah, it's a known thing in history.
Those are my favorite motifs from Game of Thrones. It is known. Just throw that after anything.
Yeah, it is.
It's known.
It's known. It's known.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess if it's known, then got me.
We also I can't remember if this has came up, and it would have only been he's only been in 2 chapters besides this one, so I can't remember if it came up before, but I think this is the first time you get to mention that Dalinar has no memory of his wife.
Yeah, that's a good point. I when I read it, I thought I remembered something about his wife prior. And one of the main things that stuck with me is that's the biggest part of the reason why he couldn't pursue. Well, that wasn't the biggest reason. The biggest reason why he couldn't pursue. God damn it! What's her face?
Navani,
his mom. Yeah, is because she was married to his brother.
Yeah,
that's the biggest reason. But also he had his wife, and this dude's like Mr. Honor Code. So
well, he got with his wife after Navani picked his brother, and so
yes.
She could have been with Dalinar, and but she chose Gavilar.
You think it was a square box head?
Yeah, she's not like a massive fan of box heads. Not her top, but he looked okay, but yeah. Gavilar had a little more rounding, a little more smoother edges.
Little more symmetrical rather than just being a big square box.
Yeah. Yeah, with the wrong nose.
Frumpy box, wrong nose.
Yeah.
Yeah, incorrect features.
Yeah.
Unfortunate face.
But yeah, so I mean, we get that, she'd been excised from his memory, leaving strange gaps in foggy areas. Sometimes he could remember an exact scene with everyone else crisp and clear, but she was a blur. He couldn't even remember her name. When others spoke it slipped from his mind like a pat of butter sliding off a too hot knife. So, like, I mean, and it talks, whenever they do it on the Audible, there's like a shh. When they say her name, he hears like a whooshing sound. Like it's came up in it comes up in this book, and it comes up in all the books.
That's interesting. Something's going on there. Jeez.
Yeah, it's not that he forgot. It's gone. Like, and he's mentioned it. Like we'll come across it again in this book. Like there's times when like someone will say her name, and he literally cannot hear it.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's a really interesting choice for Sanderson to make, and obviously there's something bigger there. But that's one of the things he describes here. I've had that circumstance where you're trying to picture someone's face, and you like can't as you're trying to do it. You need like a situation that you remember.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes the people that are closest to you, you just can't like do it on command. It's a little bit of a strange thing that happens in the human mind. But
this is different. Yeah,
no, I know. Yeah, I was saying, but what's cool about that is he's drawing off of something that people do experience, but then taking it to another level where it's like it's not just that. he can't even remember her name.
Yeah, and
What?
it's to the point where like he can remember the exact details of a scene, everything about it, except for her.
Yeah,
She's
so
like a
like
blank spot in his mind.
so what that creates, that's not just like a blank, like the inability to remember. It's been removed. It's like it's
Yes.
removed from your past, your memory, and it's intentionally still being like stalwarted. Like if you can't hear the name, that's fucking crazy. Like there's something crazy going on there. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's really interesting. I wonder what's at play there.
Yeah, because
And what's the purpose?
yeah, I mean that's something that we're not at a point where that's been revealed, and he doesn't know. He doesn't know why she's gone. You can see it here. I mean, like it's not like he's like I got rid of all these memories because of XYZ, and I got rid of her. He's just like there's a blank spot, and I can't hear her name. I can't think of her. Like, she's just gone.
Yeah, that's wild. It's an interesting choice.
Yeah. So, obviously that's stuff you find out as you go along, but not yet.
I like the further description of the chasm fiend. This was one of those things that's like a really cool visual image, for me to picture, because we heard about how it has all these different. Basically, has I can't remember what you would refer to it now, but when it would yell like in a bunch of different tones,
Mm.
right? It's like it had a bunch of different voices, and then describes the complex network of jaws and like just like all these different like rows of teeth and rock buds opening nearby, their vines reaching out to lap up the beast's blood. Like that whole visual image is nuts. Like this big majestic animal that's laying there dead, and a massive version of it, being able to see all those things that make up how the chasm fiend like functions. And then the liveliness of rockbuds like feasting on the blood is really interesting picture.
Yeah, and you get like how they harvest these things. Like they climb up on tops, made a rocky chrysalis, waiting for their coming high storm. During that time, they were vulnerable. You just had to get to a plateau where it rested, break into the chrysalis with some mallets or a shard blade, then cut out the gem heart. Easy work for a fortune, and the beast came frequently, often several times a week, so long as weather didn't get too cold. So like they got this steady supply of gem hearts where, they're not having to fight these chasm fiends like they had to in the previous chapter. They basically catch them hibernating and fucking take them out and kill them when they're asleep.
Yeah, that sounds like the most wise approach.
Yeah, well, it's a lot safer unless you want to
But
send up the guys to the afterlife so they can get their fucking party on.
well, I was gonna say you don't get to run around celebrating yourself like
Yeah.
Elhokar did. No, not everybody gets to see how great you are.
Yeah, no champagne parties if no one's risking their life.
Yeah, if you just sneak up behind them and
Except, although, on the flip side of that though is, the chasm fiend doesn't kill 50 people, but the Parshindi probably are taking out more than that. So,
What do you mean?
well, the
Oh, you mean
Parshindi are
in the
fighting for
hunts
the gem heart.
yeah, I
Yeah.
got it. I
So,
got it. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it really, I guess, that scenario, it's safer to fight the fucking chasm fiend than to fight the Parshindi armies.
Yeah.
We
Yeah,
also get that there were spren that were coming off the freshly killed bodies of great shells. They said they look like the tongues of smoke that might come off a candle after being snuffed. Nobody knew what kind of spren they were. You only saw them around freshly killed bodies of great shells. And, they're smoke spren, and there's something about like the smoke spren that help that the chasm fiend grow to the great size that they grow to. Like without these spren that are inside of them, then they could not grow to be as big as they are. So it's some kind of symbiotic relationship that they have with these things.
that's interesting. Yeah, I thought when I read that, it definitely it's there for a reason, and the idea that these spren are only for these chasm fiends, that's an interesting addition as well. So yeah, I wonder. Yeah, I mean, the sprint is such an interesting element to bring into the world because it supplements in so many ways, and then it integrates with Kaladin and with Shallan, and then you have them sort of living throughout the world as well. And it's a tell. It's a massive tell where like Sadeas is pissed off, and you see the anger sprint coming up out of the ground around him. You know?
Yeah.
It's like it's a massive tell of like someone's either embarrassed or angry or what have you.
Yeah, the sprint, it's wild because of one, like the people living on the planet seem to have very limited knowledge about what the fucking sprint are. To the point where they see the smoke sprint, they don't have any clue what it is, why it's there, what it's doing. They don't know. So they don't know shit about the sprint. They don't have like people who are able to really, they have to study them and try to figure them out like, we would like animals, and, where you can't communicate with them. So they're not communicating with these spren to find out about them. But then you have this element brought in where you got now like Syl and Pattern and, that are able to communicate with them. But those spren don't seem to know their past very well, or they're slowly but surely learning it. So, but it's the spren are interesting just because of how many different dynamics there are. There's spren that react to emotion. There's the smoke spren that come out of the chasmfiends, and they help them grow to great size. But what how exactly it works, what it is doing, we don't know. It's just some kind of symbiotic relationship where Syl and Kaladin have a symbiotic relationship as well, but it's different. Mm-hmm. And same with Pattern and Shallan. But then, other spren don't seem to have any relationship other than like they react to your emotions and shit. So it's always it's really, really different.
Early on, I started to expect like, so everyone has their own spren. And then it's like, well, maybe that's not the case, or it's like maybe chosen few, or maybe they're like being awakened now. There's like a change in the force of the world, so now it's spren are starting to spread a little bit more. But like you mentioned, there's connections to certain emotions like honor spren and anger spren and these different types. It's a great element. It's one of my favorite elements of the book that I sort of attached to, because it's like bringing on this whole different layer of reality that we don't really have, but that life force type of situation is in some of the best stories that exist.
Yeah,
that's one of the things about literature that you're able to do that we don't have in our world. We have emotions, but we don't have a physical or like a visceral representation of those things. To be able to do that in a book is, adds another element, build out our life experience. So that's why we read these things, right?
Yeah,
because it's fun.
And we get that the Parshendi want these gem hearts just as badly as the Alethi, because they risking their lives for them. They're getting their numbers are getting dwindled. They don't have relief. There's not some other Parshendi somewhere else waiting to kind of fill their ranks. They're all in one spot, and so it's win or die. But they're risking their lives for these gem hearts, so they obviously have need of them. They have some kind of purpose. They're using them as well, for something.
It sounds like not only that they're using them, it sounds like without them they don't have sustenance and they're fucked.
Yeah, there's definitely something to it, because otherwise, why are you willing to lose that many people fighting for them if you're not using them?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it'd be funny if they're just stacking them up.
Yeah, they just use it for poker. They're making it's just like poker chips. Yeah.
At the end of the whole thing, they just basically all walk in wearing gem heart necklaces. And
yeah,
they're just like, really?
Fucking blinged out.
Yeah, this is just
Christmas lights. It's just fucking like Christmas lights. They just like lights on
their caravans, fucking just sweet as shit, all bright and beautiful. And they're just, that was worth it. 12 years. Just most of us dying, but here we are.
Just see like all their like tunics and clothes are fucking gem hearted up like bedazzled fucking shirts.
Well, they put them in their beards, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that a thing?
Yeah, they do. Yeah, it's
Spheres or whatever.
Kaladin is like started sucking the stormlight out of him when he was fighting them.
He was sucking on their beards?
Yeah.
That's kind of weird looking.
Yeah,
But,
okay. It's a weird fighting move. It will distract someone.
Put their beard in your mouth?
Yeah.
Right in their face?
What the fuck is he
What's
doing?
this guy doing? He's pulling my chin towards him. What is this guy doing?
It's like deep throating everyone's beard.
They freak people out, man. He's like chewing on my.
It's like
beard.
go get him. I'm not fucking getting near that weirdo. You go fucking get him. I'm sucking your beard.
Suck on your beard.
But yeah, then so they and you also like it's a battle between, it's not just a battle between the Parshendi, it's a battle between the high princes. Like they're all racing each other for these gem hearts, so it's it's part of their culture to fight after them and fight each other for them, which is part of the reason that Dalinar is having a problem with the fighting currently, is because he sees it as dividing the Alethi. It's keeping them from uniting. It's seeing them as like 14 different kingdoms. They're all together nominally, but in reality they're not really fighting for each other.
Yeah, that definitely flies in the face of his honor code type thing, because he's still sort of obsessed of what's the overall encompassing goal here, and that all got left aside with the evolution of what this battle's about. And like you said, I mean, it's also unite them, and this is not uniting anybody.
Yeah, and that's the biggest issue with it, is it's going against what he's being told he needs to do. He's being told he needs to unite them, and he sees that this is doing the exact opposite of that. So it's a major part of the problem that he's having with the Alethi people, is he's changing to where he's thinking bigger picture, and they're still just focused on the small daily battles between each other to get gem hearts, which are extremely valuable. I mean, extremely valuable. So it's understandable that they would fight for these things, but if they're just not having the visions that he's having.
Well, it's pretty great too, the way he lays it out, because we have Gavilar's fall from grace as well to fall back on. So we have an example very similar to what people are seeing in Dalinar, they saw in Gavilar, right? Where he was reading The Way of Kings, and then he's putting out quotes, and so people are like, that's a sign to Dalinar now. It's like a sign of he was waking up, he was becoming more aware. For everybody else, it's like he's losing his mind. He's becoming sick in the head, and he's losing control, and that's what they all see with Dalinar too. So we have that fallback example to actually look at as well, which is, it's really helpful just to like emphasize what's happening with Dalinar, but also culturally around him.
Yeah, and I like how Sanderson builds up the kind of the tension and anticipation for that first time you're going to see him have one of his dreams and have one of his spells. Like in this part, you get there was a small chance that another high storm might arrive tonight. The Storm Warden said, Almighty send that the army was back in the camp if one did come. High storms, visions, unite them. So you're getting like his fear of having one of his visions in front of people, and it keeps building that anticipation for like what is exactly happening to him, and also the aspect of it, he doesn't want it to happen in front of other people. People are talking about it behind his back, but no one's seeing exactly what's happening.
Well, I love especially the way that he says it to himself. Did he really believe in what he'd seen? Did he really think that the Almighty himself had spoken to him? Dalinar Kholin, the Blackthorn, a fearsome warlord? Like, why would he choose me?
Yeah.
If that's the case, why
especially
would
to
someone choose
unite
me of all people? Yeah, exactly. And I mean, that's huge, because it's putting it on his shoulders, and we get, like you said, it's building that tension where he has to think about how he's being perceived. He doesn't care nearly as much, and that's again a great thing that Sanderson does with Adolin, because Adolin gets all up in Sadeas's grill, and everybody else like fearful of how his father's being represented. Dalinar doesn't as much give a shit, right? Because he has his focus on the bigger picture, and he's kind of telling Adolin to pump his brakes as well. But it's an interesting dynamic in that sense of seeing both examples. And he's also saying, he used to be that way. He just doesn't give a shit anymore.
Yeah.
He has bigger fish to fry. Again, going with that fish fry. Yeah,
he loves his fish fries.
Every time you say it, it sounds like fries stuffed with fish.
Yeah,
that's what it sounds
fries.
Like. Is that like fish sticks?
It's like French fries, but like fish instead of potato insides, it's fish.
Yeah. So those would be called fish dicks, right?
Yeah, fish sticks. Yeah.
Right, South
they
Park,
hollow out French fries and then stuff fish inside of them, cold fish, into the middle of a hot fry.
There you go. Why has it got to be cold?
I don't know. It's something about the taste. That's what he likes. I don't know. It's Dalinar's thing. I didn't come up with it.
I mean,
I didn't make this up. This is something Dalinar came up with.
What's the British thing with fried fish? I can't think of
fish and chips.
Fish and chips. That's the most upsetting is when it doesn't coalesce properly and you bite it and the thing comes out and then the fish is just not connected. That's upsetting.
Losing all the breading.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If you want a real fish dick, it needs to be same temp. That's what I'm saying.
I like the only fish sticks I eat are the frozen fish sticks, man. Those are fucking delicious.
Wait, you don't thaw them either? You just eat them frozen?
Just suck on them.
That is so very weird. Just dip them in tomato sauce and suck on them? Okay. Maybe I'll have to give that a try.
Tartar sauce, man.
Sucking on tartar sauce?
Frozen fish sticks.
I mean, I don't hate tartar sauce, but the idea of a wet, thawing fish stick in your mouth with tartar sauce, like I'm going to get nauseous, man.
Man, you're missing out. They're delicious that way.
Your mouth thaws the fish stick?
Yeah.
Gross. Yeah, it's nice to learn something new, I guess.
But I like that we get the description of Sadeas from Dalinar. Because we get he had removed his helm, revealing a head of thick black hair that curled and tumbled around his shoulders. He cut an imposing figure in his plate. He certainly looked much better in armor than he did wearing one of those ridiculous costumes of lace and silk that were popular these days. So a couple things. Dalinar does not mention that he's got like a disgusting, bulbous, fucking red-ass, gross face. Like Adolin talks about Sadeas like he's some hideous monster. His bulbous, fucking ready face. And Dalinar is like, he cuts a pretty imposing figure. He's just, he looks silly in his stupid costumes. But he would think that is the same thing of, Adolin, like wearing stuff like that. He would think he's shitting on the fashion, not on his looks. I think it is adding a lot of weight to just Adolin is judging people based on how he perceives himself. And he thinks everybody else is just hideous next to him.
Well, I do also think it needs to be there needs to be some attention towards he's wearing lace and silk.
Yeah.
So this dude's like walking around in lingerie, basically. Yeah. Is the fashion?
They all wear teddies.
So they take off the shard plate and they put on teddies. Oh man!
It's a fashion statement, man. Massive warriors, and they're all giant men.
Well, and then I
big ass dudes.
I would also say, oh man, Jesus, if they stick to that sort of element for this show, because dude, if they're walking around in shard plate all day,
teddies and silk pajamas.
Well, if basically they're constantly in battle, these dudes are like ripped, right?
Yeah.
So they're all ripped up from wearing shard plate all the time.
Grizzled, like warriors, like with scars and fucking broken noses and shit. And then they're wearing teddies.
Wearing teddies, drinking wine. What an odd scene, man. Oh man, that's wow. Yeah, that is interesting. I wonder if they'll go that route with the show.
I think they might have. Someone who was thinking about making this into a TV show probably had different ideas, but once they listen to the podcast, they're gonna be like, "No, these guys know what to do." Like fucking Elhokar running around splashing champagne in everybody's face, smashing cigars in their mouth, wearing a teddy.
Elhokar especially, man. He would definitely have like it'd show more skin, I would imagine. Like he's got some real like frayed silk business going on, like some tails.
He's just got like really short silk shorts, and then he's wearing like a half cut off like mesh silk NFL jersey type of thing.
Fucking
just like a ripped 6-pack.
I don't know the exact term, but a tuxedo that has tails.
Yeah,
I have one of those things going on as well, but super short shorts. But then the tails
no
shirt, go back.
No shirt underneath.
It's ridiculous. It's pretty funny, the idea that the men wear basically lingerie.
Yeah,
and the women don't. They cover one of their hands.
Yeah,
they're fully clothed and covered.
They super into some unique fashion. It's a unique fashion sense that they have.
I mean, I hadn't really thought of it in this sense, but this is definitely fleshing out the idea that women are completely covered head to toe, show basically one hand, and they read and study. The men fight all day and then walk around in teddies, in short shorts, displaying their physical.
Except for Dalinar, who's just like walking around like just a straight man's man, fucking walking around. Yeah.
Oh yeah. He's got the
military uniform. Yeah. Except for everybody else is just walking around in teddies next to him. They're all mocking his fashion sense.
That definitely further emphasizes his his uber conservative approach.
Yeah.
Right? His honor guard type thing is like he's full uniform. Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, the visuals, man.
But yeah, and then we get Dalinar against Sadeas, and they start throwing, barbs at each other. And so it was like, the king asking him how many gem hearts he's won in the last few weeks, because he says Sadeas won 3. And he's like, how many have you won? He's like, before this, none, your majesty. It's Sadeas bridges, Elhokar said. They're more efficient than yours. I may not have won anything in the last few weeks, Dalinar said stiffly, but my army has won its share of skirmishes in the past, and the gem hearts can go to damnation for all I care. And the gem hearts can go to damnation for all I care is something he says in his head. But
yeah, Elhokar drops the Janet Jackson.
Janet Jackson?
What have you done for me lately?
She says that? I don't remember saying that.
You don't remember that song? What have you done for me lately?
No.
Well, that's unfortunate, but that is, that's Janet, bro. Or Miss
Justice.
Miss Jackson, if you're nasty.
Talking about Outcast. That's Outcast.
No, man. Janet Jackson had that song way back in the day where she says, Miss Jackson, if you're nasty.
No, I'm sorry, Miss Jackson.
That's a completely different song.
Real.
That's a great song. Much better than the Janet Jackson song, but Janet Jackson had some song. Fuck, man. I don't know. It's an old reference. We're talking
you're getting 90s, things mixed up.
80s.
You're thinking of Andre 6022.
3000. Andre 3000. And Outcast is fucking great. So,
yeah.
But
yeah,
you derailed. It's your
fault. They start throwing barbs at each other, and and I like Elhokar. What have you done for me lately? It's such a douchey fucking thing to say, like, especially for the guy who's like, your right hand man that's just saved your life. It's like, what have you done for me lately? Besides save your life? You mean that when I saved your life like 5 minutes ago? Like, what have I done since then?
You walked around celebrating your victory.
I
like
saved your life, and you just got the biggest gem heart that we've ever fucking seen. You mean, what have I done since then? 5 minutes ago? I walked over here. As you got done, once you got done spraying everybody with champagne, I walked over here, and now I'm talking to you. There hasn't been any time for me to do anything since then. You douche.
Well, I like also, I don't know if it happens here, but he's also like, what about that other thing I asked you to do? Have you done that yet? Have you got onto that investigation I need you to perform? But yeah, that's hilarious. And I hadn't thought about that, like his super over-the-top celebration that we've been talking about.
Yeah.
Like he was this close to death.
Yeah.
Like this fucking close.
Yeah, and so they start debating on the bridges too. And so he says, Your Majesty, Dalinar said, Sadeas bridges waste many lives. Relying on wheeled bridges is foolish, Dalinar. Getting them over this plateau terrain is slow and plodding. The code state that a general may not ask a man to do anything he would not do himself. Tell me, Sadeas, would you run at the front of those bridges you use? And I like Sadeas. It's like, I wouldn't eat gruel either. It's like, or cut ditches. He's like, Dalinar's telling him the bridges are different. Stormfather, you don't even let them use armor or shields. Would you enter combat without your plate? So I like this part because this is where because this is what Kaladin thinks as well. Dalinar is like filling that role. The same things that Kaladin's asking is like, why don't we have fucking shields? Why are you just shedding this many lives? Like, just wasting us. What's the fucking point? And Sadeas says, it's not just that he's cruel and he's just a dick. He's like, look, we gave him fucking shields. It backfired. They started shooting the arrows at the soldiers.
Soldiers, yeah.
Yeah.
So they stopped being targets. And that's the whole point.
Yeah.
And we find that out. It gets much more emphasized later, but he's telling us here what we end up finding out in real time, which is their targets.
I mean, the main benefit of it is the speed. That they're able to cover the distances so they can get to gem hearts quicker and get to them sometimes before the Parshini. So that's an advantage.
Well,
but then
certain death or pending death is a very motivating factor for you to speed up.
Yeah.
So that's also effective in getting the speed going.
Yeah. Although you're sprinting to your death. But yeah, like there's like that last like 20 last 100 yards, basically, then it's a massive sprint to set that thing down and get, take cover.
Get out of harm's way.
But the going over all the chasms before then, I mean, you're hustling to, get to the point where you're going to start having arrows shot at you.
Yeah.
But so, I mean, that's the main purpose is the speed, though, is they're able to move those, carry those bridges a lot quicker than the domed, bridges that have cover that Dalinar's having his men carry.
And that's the biggest difference between the two. I mean,
yeah.
That's the biggest, most significant difference.
Yeah. I mean, Dalinar is sacrificing speed for safety. Sadeas is like, get there as quickly as possible. I will burn through, as many people as I need to accomplish my goal. And
it's all about speed in this sense too.
Yeah,
it's getting to the gem heart. Yeah.
Because obviously it's not about just get these guys killed. They're worthless because he wouldn't have given them shields at any point. Yeah. He gave them shields because it's like, okay, well, if we can get there quickly and not get them killed, then great. But then when it starts getting my soldiers killed, then then I'd rather lose all those guys. It's like, I'm not losing the speed. So if my choices are protect the bridge crew or my soldiers, then I'm going to protect my soldiers.
Yeah, and I mean, it logically does make sense. It's not necessarily directly opposed to honor code. It makes sense in terms of rationality. These are the guys that have been demoted from all other positions. I mean, that's who you're laying waste to, and in their world, it doesn't seem like that's too much of a faux pas.
No, it's a very much, the ends justify the means approach, and it's cold-hearted, cold-blooded, but it's efficient, and it's working as far as it goes. As far as what he wants to do, it's working.
Well, yeah, and that's kind of his whole point is like, can you argue with the results?
Yeah.
It is interesting it's directly very, very clear description of Dalinar's whole thing is, the idea that you shouldn't be, or the code states that a general may not ask a man to do anything he would not do himself. I mean, that's very honorable, right? So it's right up there with his whole honor code thing. But yeah, the idea of that working for an army is, I mean, again, it's honorable, it's respectable. Your soldiers will respect you more, but you can't do what Sadeas is doing and applying that.
Well, and you're also not taking into account like how useful the bridge men could be. And you're using them just as sacrificial lambs, and in that situation you have a guy like Kaladin who you're just utterly wasting. A really good soldier, a really good commander, and a really good surgeon. Like he's extremely talented in the specific fields you would want to be for battle. Like he's very talented in all of those things, and you're just using him as cannon fodder. So, like, I mean, the system is still, it is stupid. There, even if you want to do what he's doing, there should be a better way to weed out talent so that you're not losing talented players.
Well, in his circumstance, what clearly happened there was the whole thing with Amaran. So he got miscast, right, purposefully. If you were playing, I mean, if it was a level playing field, or if it was a circumstance where you're trying to have the cream rise to the top, he would be in he would be in a high position now. But that whole thing with Amaran, that cast him down to slavery, so
yeah,
now he's having to work his way back up, which is pretty brutal, obviously, but it makes him who he is, right? What doesn't kill you makes you stronger, apparently.
Yeah, and I can't remember where it is in this chapter, but there's also a part where Dalinar starts thinking about, because we had talked about it, but Dalinar brings up, like, at some point with the amount of people that Sadeas is churning through, when is he gonna have to start start pulling off better people, guys that are haven't done really anything that justifies being arrow fodder, but he has to start using them because of how many people that he's getting killed on these bridge runs. So Dalinar, because we've talked about it, like, man, they're losing a lot of people. It seems like they're gonna fucking run out at some point, because this is a relatively new tactic. It's not like he's been doing this for 6 years. This is a new tactic. And so Dalinar has the thought, like, shit, like at some point he's going to run out of, the slaves, and he's going to have to start turning into soldiers and that kind of, shit to fill these bridge crews.
Wow. Imagine the competition to not be on the bridge crew.
Yeah.
That'd be brutal.
Yeah. At that point, you would think, people would start taking shots at Sadeas, like, this dude's got to go.
What they probably would do is have them line up and test by vertical leap.
Yeah.
Whoever has the shittiest vertical leap, bridge crew.
Alley-oop, alley-oop, double teams, like, alley-oops where they got two men, like one throwing the sword and the other guy jumping up, practicing stabbing down on people's head like you have to do throughout history.
Just keep running those drills.
Yeah.
It is known.
Yeah, it is known. But yeah, then it turns from, kind of a bridge debate to the Alethi way debate, where he's like, regardless, surely you can't argue with how effective my method has been. Sometimes, Dalinar said, the price is not worth the cost. The means by which we achieve victory are as important as the victory itself. Sadeas looked at Dalinar incredulously. Even Adolin and Renarin, who had come closer, seemed shocked by the statement. It was very un-Alethi way of thinking. With the visions and the words of that book spinning in his mind lately, Dalinar wasn't feeling particularly Alethi. So, like, this idea, like, and like Sadeas says, the prize is worth any cost. Winning the competition is worth any effort, any expense. It is war, Dalinar said, not a contest. Everything is a contest, Sadeas said with a wave of his hand. All dealings among men are a contest in which some will succeed and others fail, and some are failing quite spectacularly. So,
ooh, dig.
Yeah, and so you get, like, That's part of the thing that blows my mind with this society is how warlike they are. I mean, to the point where you have this kind of conversation where it's like, dude, any cost, anything to achieve victory, to get my goals, anything is worth it. I will do whatever I got to do. And then they're also very articulate and seem to have a sophisticated society with they're having parties and they're drinking wine and they're having big meals and stuff. They're not like a Conan the Barbarian type of fucking society. So it's a weird mix when you factor in the fact that they can't fucking read.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, when we go with Shallan and go to this society with all the bells, right? The wind bells, and she goes to these libraries, and you see all the heralds or the heralds, the
Ardents,
and you see like that world. I know that's not necessarily the same culture as the Alethi, but when you put that next to the way the Alethi live, it is interesting because culturally they have like politics, they have little debates and shit, but then it's very war focused and competition focused, and then they have the battles for shard blades. Sounds like, man, that's you're either going to be a lifelong success or not. I mean, you can still be a traitor, what have you, but a traitor with a D. But if you have shard blade, I mean, you're unbeatable virtually, right? Unless again, you can lose it in a a contest.
Yeah, it's and it's. I mean, I get the why you'd be good at fighting if you're fighting all the time and that kind of stuff. But it's the combination. It's the way Sadeas talks and things like that. Like the combination between like this dude is a straight warlord, but he's also sophisticated, philosophical, and he's got a good head on his shoulders. He's smart. He's calculating. He's he's an intelligent dude, but
they're focused.
He grows up in a society where he can't fucking read, so it's such a weird fucking dynamic.
Oh yeah, that ability to be articulate and everything without reading is interesting, and then and also being philosophical without reading, but then on top of it, being they're it's like a fixation within their society that just has to get implanted in them.
Yeah,
right.
Because like I mean, the being good at war and shit would make sense. It's all the other stuff. Like where are they? Where does this come from? Like it's not explained in the books. Like where
it's just there. It exists. Yeah. That's
so it's just something I always think, especially when Sadeas is around, because of how he seems like a character that would be like well read, Machiavellian type of character, but he doesn't read. Maybe his wife's reading a bunch of books to him, but it doesn't even seem like he when he talks about the way of kings, he talks about it in such a dismissive tone, like it's ridiculous. Who fucking reads?
Yeah.
So he's a very strange character, with his personality and the fact that he doesn't read.
Well, and later in the chapter too, where basically Adolin finds out that Gavilar wrote something. He's like, wrote? What? Like he wrote? Like it's like appalling, right? Yeah. It's like how would that be possible? Like it's such a strange thing to put in the world. This idea that it's just something you don't do.
But then so they're talking about the price. Has is any cost, and then Adolin steps in and he's like, my father is one of the most renowned warriors in Elhokar. Adolin snapped, butting into the group. The king raised an eyebrow at him, but otherwise stayed out of the conversation. You saw what he did earlier, Sadeas. While you were hiding back by the pavilion with your bow, my father held off the beast. You're a cow. Elhokar lets the fighting happen, which is part of their culture as well. Like he doesn't step in and get involved. He's just letting it happen. But Dalinar, gets Adolin to cool it. He's like, that's enough. And then Sadeas, instead of seeing like, Dalinar trying to fan the, cool things down, Sadeas jumps in and digs in even further. He's like, Sadeas turned to Dalinar, smirking. One son can barely control himself and the other is incompetent. This is your legacy, old friend? I'm proud of them both, Sadeas, whatever you think. The firebrand I can understand, Sadeas said. You were once impetuous just like him, but the other one? You saw he ran onto the field today. He even forgot to draw his sword or bow. He's useless. Like, imagine saying that to someone, like, about their kids to their face.
And in front of their kids.
Yeah,
Jesus Christ, man.
And I mean, you're talking about like a guy that's known as the Blackthorn, who's like got this, this legendary warrior who just caught a chasmfiend's like claw and fucking held it by himself. And like, then you're just like, Sadeas got some fucking balls, man.
Yeah, for sure. It seems like a lot of times, like, it's, well, not necessarily here, but I do get the feeling that he's baiting. He's trying to create a real significant rise, or he's doing it because he's safe. I don't know. One of the two.
I think he lost his temper there, because this is baiting. Dalinar wouldn't have helped him, because if he gets in a fight with Dalinar, what he's gonna lose.
I kind of more thought he was baiting Adolin to go too far, which Adolin nearly summons his shard blade.
Okay,
which he's gonna lose.
Well.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. But yeah, more so. I guess what I mean is more so blow his. Well, it's not like if he does, if Adolin or Dalinar freaks out and goes nuts. It's not as if.
Because of their culture,
banished.
like it's perfect. It would be perfectly. It would have been perfectly legal and rational for Dalinar or Adolin to challenge him to a fight to the death. That's just part of their culture, and no one would have thought anything else other than it's tactically fucking disastrous for the kingdom. And so that's why I don't think Sadeas was like. I don't think this was Sadeas trying to goad him into a fight. I think he just crossed a line and he was being a dick, and his temper got fucking, he got a little heated as well, especially, with Adolin calling him a coward. And so he fucking bit back at him, and then, he crossed the line. But I like that, Adolin starts to summon his shard blade, and so Dalinar calms him down. And then I like how he's like, Sadeas, surely I did not just hear you openly before the king call my son useless. Surely you would not say that, as such an insult would demand that I summon my blade and seek your blood, shatter the vengeance pact, cause the king's two greatest allies to kill one another. Surely you would not have been that foolish. Surely I misheard. And Sadeas like, perhaps, Sadeas said slowly, you did hear the wrong words. I would not insult your son. That would not have been wise of me. So I think is just his temper got heated because he got called a coward, and so he snapped back. And then once Dalinar like laid it out, like, look, man, like if you continue down this path, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to be forced to. You're not just going to walk over me.
This kind of thing always cracks me up because it's basically like, take it back. Okay, I take it back. The words aren't you can't unring the bell. He said these things.
Yeah, but
I mean, I get it.
You get the guy to fucking back down.
Yeah. There's a lot at stake here, and he does back down. Also, does it publicly in front of Elhokar and his sons. That's, I guess, it's enough. But yeah, it always cracks me up when I hear somebody say things like "take it back." Okay, like, yeah, it was still said, so you still heard that shit.
But, if you do get someone to fucking back down and take it back, it kind of fucking puts them a little bit in their place. Yeah. Where it's like, if, you're not willing to back up the words with fists, then, it shows the, where the line is.
Yeah.
But then, so yeah, when he's like, I guess we can be done with this. And then to the side, Adolin looked unsatisfied, as if he really been hoping that Dalinar would summon his blade and confront Sadeas. Dalinar's own blood felt hot, the thrill tempting him, but he shoved it down. No, not here, not now, not while Elhokar needed them. But he's always got the thrill, this fucking beast that inside of him that, is just yearning to just destroy. And he's always combating against that.
Yeah, he's a very interesting character because he does have those instincts, yet he's got that, that overall honor code that he has to try to adhere to, that he keeps pushing himself in that direction. So it's like reining in the beast within, I guess.
Yeah, and the way they describe it in these books, it's like an Alethi thing. The thrill is they credit it with why they're such great warriors is because they have this thing inside of them. And so, and the fact that they capitalize it, it's not like just like an emotion. It's like it's something that is different about them.
Yeah, I mean, I sort of picture it like when you just go unhinged,
hulking out,
or like Animal with the drums from the Muppets.
Yeah, that's what I think of is Animal from the Muppets,
or the Tasmanian Devil from Looney Tunes.
Yep. Yeah, that too. I think of that as well. Yeah, both of those things.
Muppets and cartoons. That's what we picture.
But yeah, and then I love that right after that though, right after like Sadeas was snapping at him and he gets him to back down, then Sadeas immediately throws out another fucking barb. Like this dude's got some big old fucking balls. I mean, even after he's like, all right, dude, do you want to fight? It's like, no, I don't want to fight. And it's like, perhaps we can be done, Your Majesty. Perhaps we can be done, Your Majesty, though I doubt this particular discussion between Dalinar and me will ever be done, at least until he relearns how to act as a man should. Jesus. Dude, you're just asking to get fucking smacked in the face.
Yeah.
And then Wit steps in.
Good timing.
Yeah, great perfect timing. Yeah. And he's like, quite enough, you say? A new voice added. I believe a single word from Sadeas is quite enough for anyone. And you get, Dalinar studied the black-clad man, what to make of Wit. He was clever, and yet he was too free with his thoughts. As he'd shown with Renarin earlier, this Wit had a strange air about him that Dalinar couldn't quite place. So it's, and Dalinar's always like looking at him. It's like there's always, when people think about Wit, it's always that he's different. There's something weird about him. Obviously, when we've talked about like Wit is an ancient fucking figure. I mean, he's, talking to, the chapters start off, he's writing letters to fucking dragons. And he travels off world, and he's been around, throughout, he's been in all the books, which they span hundreds or at least hundreds of years, if not thousands of years. So he's an ancient figure. He's different. He isn't like them at all.
Yeah, he's extraordinarily entertaining. That's for sure. But I like the way that he's describing here through Dalinar's eyes. He doesn't know quite where to place him.
Yeah,
that makes sense because what you just described, nobody would be able to. It's like something's up with this dude. I don't know what exactly, but something's up.
Yeah, and then we get one of the fucking great lines where he's like, Bright Lord Sadeas, Wit said, taking a sip of wine, I'm terribly sorry to see you here. I should think, Sadeas said dryly, that you would be happy to see me. I seem always to provide you with such entertainment. That is unfortunately true, Wit said. Unfortunately? Yes, you see, Sadeas, you make it too easy. An educated, half-brained serving boy with a hangover could make mock of you. I am left with no need to exert myself, and your very nature makes mockery of my mockery. And so it is that through sheer stupidity you make me look incompetent. Really, Elhokar, Sadeas said, must we put up with this creature? I like him, Elhokar said, smiling. He makes me laugh. At the expense of those you are loyal to? Expense? What Wit cut in. Sadeas, I don't believe you've ever paid me a sphere. Though, no, please, don't offer. I can't take your money, as I know how many others you must pay to get what you wish of them. Sadeas flushed, but kept his temper. A whore joke, Wit? Is that the best you can manage? Wit shrugged. I point out truths when I see him, Bright Lord Sadeas. Each man has his place. Mine is to make insults. Yours is to be in sluts. Sadeas froze, then grew red-faced. You are a fool. So great.
Dude, I love it so much because it's also like a visual word joke.
Yeah.
Just switching the letter around, so great. And Sadeas' sick rebuttal. You're a fool.
Yeah.
You fool.
I love it just in the aspect of it. He's like a horror joke, really, and then not only he continue making a horror joke, he does it with a play on words. So he's just like, oh, was that not clever enough for you? Well, here, how about this?
Oh man, yeah. Sadeas is he's overmatched. That is for certain. He just keeps getting. Wit just fucks him up, burns him left and right. It's great.
Yeah, this one was a little nerdy. If you can speak yet say nothing ridiculous, I will leave you alone for the rest of the week. Well, I think that shouldn't be too difficult, and yet you failed. For you said I think, and I cannot imagine. I can imagine nothing so ridiculous as the concept of you thinking. What of you, young Prince Renarin? Your father wishes me to leave you alone. Can you speak yet say nothing ridiculous? Nothing ridiculous, Renarin said slowly. Wit laughed. Yes, I suppose that will satisfy me. Very clever. Bright Lord Sadeas should lose control of himself and finally kill me. Perhaps you could be the king's wit in my stead. You seem to have the mind for it. And, obviously, now Wit is definitely trying to provoke Sadeas. He's 100% trying to fuck with this dude.
Yes. I like Renarin, though. He came back with the good night, Kevin. It's good. Good move.
Yeah. Yeah, and then I like that when Sadeas goes to grab his sword, he starts motion. His hand moves towards his sword. Wit steps forward and is like, "So what of it, Sadeas? You going to do Elhokar a favor and rid it of both of us?" And I like that because when you find out it's like Dalinar thinks killing the King's Wit was legal, but by doing so, Sadeas would forfeit his title and lands. And so it's, you can kill him, but you're going to lose everything. And so if you want to kill him, you got to kind of do it secretly. So Wit he's basically got free reign to fuck with these guys in public, where it's like, man, is it worth losing everything I have? Be like, you run into, Steve Jobs and someone who's just absurdly wealthy, and you just fucking talking mad shit, and then the law is if he punches you, he loses all of his money and his houses.
It's an interesting situation.
Be like, could you imagine if you had that, and you're around the guy all the time, and if this guy fucking attacks you, he's gonna lose everything. You could just mercilessly mock the guy, fucking, and it'd just be like, man, this motherfucker.
Yeah, you could get pretty brutal on people.
Yeah. It's a weird rule that they wrote in that allows the King's Wit to be the biggest prick on the planet, and then there's you just gotta fucking sit there and take it.
It's an interesting. I mean, I can actually see justification. I mean, Shakespeare included things like this with a clown, where it's basically the clown gets to say anything, and it releases the tension in the room. The clown, though, is not an idiot. He doesn't go after the queen or the king. He goes after the rest of the court. Doesn't go after those who, basically could more likely get away with chopping this dude's head off.
Yeah. I like there's a part, and I think it's when Navani gets into town, when Wit sees her. She comes walking up, and Wit sees her, and he starts to fucking say something snide. She just smacks him in the face and just keeps walking. It's enough of you.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's great. She's an awesome character. She's a cool character. Yasna's awesome. A lot of the women he writes are really cool characters.
Yeah, and then after that, Sadeas goes peeling off because he's had enough of it. So he goes storming off, and then the king comes up to him, and he's like, I should go placate Sadeas. I've been meaning to ask you, though, have you looked into the issue I asked you about earlier? And, he's obviously asking him to look into the assassination attempt, which is not really an assassination. Well, not in the way that he thinks. The strap he did to himself, but he's having Dalinar and Adolin look into it.
Yeah, and basically he's going to go do that.
All right, and then we're back in Adolin's head as he's looking at the strap, and he realizes, shit, the king thinks the strap was cut, doesn't he? And he's like, Father, he's getting increasingly paranoid. He is, Dalinar didn't reply. He sees assassins in every shadow. Straps break. That doesn't mean someone tried to kill him. If the king is worried, Dalinar said, we should look into it. The break is smoother on one side, as if it were sliced, and so that it would rip when it was stressed. So the funny thing is just how, Adolin is right and wrong. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's obviously, Elhokar is obviously paranoid because he's the one that fucking did it. And he's doing this purposely so that all he's trying to do is get Dalinar to believe that someone is trying to kill him. Mm. And so his way of doing that was like setting up a fake assassination attempt. Not to like, all right, I gotta fucking prove that, that someone is trying to kill me with evidence. He's like, I'll just make up a fake assassination attempt and, really I'll just commit a false flag against myself. That'll convince him that I'm right.
Yeah.
It's such a fucking crazy thought process. Like, who would think of something like this?
Yeah, crazy ass plan. And the funny thing is, it gets mentioned that like the Alethi are known for doing some crazy ass shit like this.
Yeah.
But it also does show like that Adolin has pretty good instincts. When it comes to, he catches on pretty quick that this is without his father telling him that Elhokar's he's paranoid and he thinks strap was cut and blah blah blah. But then also there's a few other parts where he also does, like, he sees later that he does also see that Sadeas is up to some shit.
Yeah.
Right? Or that he shouldn't be trusting him. Now, Sadeas is a scumbag, and he's been a scumbag to Adolin, but just the point that I was getting at is just Adolin has pretty good instincts and picks up on these things pretty quickly.
Yeah, he's a little wrong here with the, that, oh, look, straps break, and he's just completely dismissing the idea that it could have been cut when it was, and Elhokar, had him look at it because he knew it was cut because he cut it himself. So, so he's just completely dismissing the idea that it was cut because he rightly just thinks Elhokar is paranoid. He just isn't thinking Elhokar is so paranoid that he would be willing to do this himself.
Yeah, it's interesting from both ends because, well, it becomes really clear for all of us that have read through it, but when they approach Elhokar's like, see, I knew it, fucking knew it, they did it, blah, blah, blah. Like, over the fucking top.
Yeah.
The second where it's like, well, mate, hey, we're not fucking experts, we're still looking into it, blah, blah, blah. But with Adolin, it's like, well, this was a stupid plan, and if it's a stupid plan, who's going to execute a stupid plan?
Yeah.
But what he's not thinking is, it was Elhokar all along, rather than some idiots that don't know how to assassinate somebody.
Yeah.
Doing it the way that I'm just going to fuck with the strap. That's not going to guarantee he dies. He's going to fall.
Yeah.
It's like tying someone's fucking shoes together. Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's obviously Elhokar is just like sitting there like, well, I want him to think someone's trying to kill me, but I don't want to like do something that's going to seriously hurt me. So he comes up with this convoluted bullshit. But then, on the flip side of it, someone was trying to kill him because not only was his strap break, like his armor was fucked with, his shard plate was fucked with, and so and clearly something different was going on with the chasmfiend. So it could have been that someone set the chasmfiend on him as well, and then he just happened to also cut his straps and put himself in some fucking serious danger because of all the other fucking things that someone was doing to him. So there is a plot. We know he cut the straps, but we don't know who fucked with his shard plate. But Adolin gets upset about just the perception that this is bringing on, that they're the king's lapdogs and they're just kind of doing his bidding. And he's got good reason because of their culture. Like if you're not fighting to be king of the hill, they see you as weak and that you're a target, you're vulnerable. And so like because of how warlike their society is, weakness is not something you want to be seen as, and then being seen as like the fucking brown noser fucking guys that just, do whatever the king tells you is not part of their culture. That's not how things work.
Yeah, I mean, and that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I would feel the same way if I was in his shoes,
Yeah. And then we get, I see that we're no longer talking about this broken girth, Dalinar said. It's like, I'm sorry, I spoke in haste. Perhaps you did. But then again, perhaps I needed to hear it. I noticed that you didn't particularly like how I held you back from Sadeas earlier. And so Adolin is like, I know that you hate him too, Father. And it's like, man, you don't get it. Our relationship is more complex than just we're throw barbs at each other. We don't like each other. They used to be good friends. They used to be fucking, thick as thieves with Gavilar. There was like those were the three dudes. They brought the kingdom together.
Over getting the thrill together in battle and whatnot.
So like they brought it together. So it's not a simple matter of, just they don't like each other's personality. They used to be friends. It's more to it than what, Adolin is thinking. Mm-hmm. And then, you get the see if you can backtrack the Girth's history. Dalinar said, have a leather worker look at it and tell you what he thinks of the rip. So he starts the investigation. And then you get, Adolin turned, glancing at the pavilion. Sadeas was strolling out of it. Adolin narrowed his eyes. Do you think? No, Dalinar interrupted. Sadeas is an eel. Son, you have to stop fixating on him. He likes Elhokar, which can't be said of most of the others. He's one of the few I trust the king's safety to. And so, to an extent, Dalinar's correct. Sadeas does care about the safety of Elhokar. And, he does protect him in that battle, and he thinks what he's doing is the best for Elhokar. But then also, as we see as the series goes on, once Elhokar kind of throws his weight behind Dalinar, then, Sadeas is less willing to protect Elhokar. Like he becomes more expendable. There's definitely strings attached to Sadeas's loyalty. Mm. It's like as long as he thinks he has the king's ear, then he's perfectly willing for Elhokar basically to kind of be a ruler that he has massive influence over. But if he doesn't have massive influence, then suddenly that loyalty starts to break down.
Yeah, it's interesting how Dalinar also points out that the High Princes, it would be unlikely that any of them would want Elhokar dead, because as long as Elhokar rules, the High Princes get to fight in the war their way and fatten their purses. He doesn't make any demands of them, or many demands of them. So basically they like having him as the king. So it's basically, the guy's he's not getting in the way. He's not preventing us from doing what we want. So why rock the boat?
Yeah, if everybody's getting rich, and we're all getting to fucking fight and kill and get rich and make money, and so what's not to like?
So I guess what ends up happening, right, is Sadeas becomes the High Prince of something.
Basically like the lead investigator for the king.
Yeah. So then that it becomes a bit of a pissing contest where it's like, well, so he's in this position, so then Dalinar needs to get a position, right? It becomes a bit of it just complicates matters a little bit even further.
Yeah.
I mean, not to jump ahead, but that's kind of, I think that speaks to what you were talking about where, as long as Sadeas is getting his his bread buttered or what have you, like he has a reason to have allegiance towards Elhokar. He does until it doesn't serve him.
Yeah, I mean, it clearly there's strings attached because like we see, like once he loses the ability to influence Elhokar, like his loyalty becomes a lot less fierce. But, as far as, where we're at here, Dalinar kind of breaks it down to him and is like, look, I'm going to show you that me and Sadeas might not agree with each other. We have different methods, but we both are trying to protect him in our own way. And so he shows it through going to High Prince Vama. And so it's like, I like this part because we are back in Adolin's head. And so he sees Vama and he says Vama himself was a round-faced, balding man, the short hair that remained stuck straight up, and he had light gray eyes. He had the habit of squinting, which he did as Dalinar and Adolin approached. Again, Adolin just thinks everybody's fucking butt ugly. It's clear. Everybody he describes is ugly. But then, so Dalinar comes up to him, is like, might my son and I speak to you alone for a moment? And then he's like, I've heard you've had success on recent plateau assaults, killing a few cocoon chasm fiends of your own. You are to be congratulated. The ones we won were small, nothing like that Jim Hart that Elhokar took today. And he starts needling him here, where he's like, a small Jim Hart is better than none. I hear that you have plans to augment the walls of your war camp. Yes, fill in the gaps and improve the fortification. I'll be certain to tell His Majesty that you'll be wanting to purchase extra access to soulcasters. Vama turned to him, frowning. Soulcasters? For lumber. Surely you don't intend to fill the walls without using scaffolding. Out here on these remote plains, it's fortunate that we have soulcasters to provide things like wood, wouldn't you say? So we find out that Sadeas had been needling him with... Sadeas controls basically the only supply of lumber that's coming in. And so he's like, I'm jacking up the price of lumber on you. And then Dalinar's coming in and he's like, I'll let the king know that you're going to be needing use of his soulcasters. And so he's basically saying, like, look, if you keep complaining about because Vama was complaining about the taxes, basically the prices that he has to pay for the soulcasters. Yeah. So their plan was like, if you keep complaining, not only will the price of the soulcasters go up, but then we'll raise the price of everything else on you as well. We control it all. We can fucking back you into a corner where you're totally screwed. You're completely relying on us. You need these soulcasters, so shit the fuck up about them.
Yeah, it's interesting how they put him into a corner where it's basically like you need to shut the fuck up and abide by the program.
Yeah.
Right? And not complain, or you're gonna be screwed either way.
Yeah.
So play by the rules, basically.
Yeah. Okay. I mean,
so they basically work over this guy to intimidate him, but also, well, not just intimidation. It's it is intimidation, but
yeah. I mean, fucking Dalinar is not very subtle with it. The king is quite generous in allowing access to the soulcasters, Dalinar said. Wouldn't you agree, Vama? I take your point, Dalinar, Vama said dryly. No need to keep bashing the rock into my face. Never been known as a subtle man, Bright Lord, Dalinar said. Just an effective one. He walked away, waving for Adolin to follow. Adolin did so, looking over his shoulder at the other High Prince. And then, so you find out that he's been complaining. And so he kind of tells him the plan. And then Sadeas walks up and he's like, Dalinar, Sadeas said, turning his eyes forward, looking across the plains. Sadeas, Dalinar's voice was controlled and curt. You spoke with Vama? Yes, he saw through what I was doing. Of course he did. There was a hint of amusement in Sadeas's voice. I wouldn't have expected anything. You told him I wouldn't have expected anything else. You told him you were increasing what you charge him for wood. Sadeas controlled the only large forest in the region, doubling it, Sadeas said. What I like about this is it starts to, after he's started off the introduction with Sadeas and making him someone that you won't trust, that you don't trust, now he starts to pull it back and starts to build that trust back up with Sadeas. He throws in some doubt, like when he makes him like the lead investigator, and you think, okay, now he's going to betray Dalinar. He's going to use this power to fuck Dalinar, but then he uses the power to help Dalinar, to eliminate him as a suspect. But he obviously had ulterior motives in doing that.
Yeah, that's a big reveal because we don't know where that's going to go. But also just small things. I mean, it's not super small, but when he's basically shooting bolts into the chasm fiend, he's helping them rather than just sitting aside. So that kind of comes out of nowhere in the middle of that fight with the chasm fiend, where it's like, oh, he's also got their back here. But then you also have Dalinar straight up like pleading or describing Sadeas as a good man to Adolin, and basically having his back. And he drops what seems to be a really big one, is the idea that, he was the decoy. That's the title of the chapter, right? He was the decoy for Gavilar, right? When Gavilar was in the shard plate and he fucking Sadeas jets out, which you would think he'd notice. I mean, I guess Zeth, you would think he had some description of who he's. Well, I remember in the chapter, it's like he starts to chase after Sadeas because he's surrounded by all these other people, but then it's like, wait, that wouldn't make a lot of sense. Wouldn't, he basically puts two and two together and realizes, no, the king is in shard plate. And he runs back.
Yeah. But he doesn't get a look at
risk,
Sadeas.
though.
Like, Sadeas didn't come out there with, his head uncovered. Like, they had him, like, fucking covered up and shit. Yeah, that bulbous fucking red ass fucking baboon ass face.
Well, and then, I mean, but again, I mean, the way that he describes it to Adolin, like, that's a not only brave, but also big risk, right? He could have been murked. He could have literally killed him. If he hadn't put two and two together and realized that Gavilar was the one in the shard plate. So, yeah. I mean, he used that as a big reason to, like, the biggest reason to respect Sadeas.
Yeah, and I mean, it is a good reason to. I mean, he was willing to sacrifice himself to save Gavilar. So, I mean, it's not some, meaningless gesture. He was willing to sacrifice his life, but you're getting the feeling that he's willing to protect the king, but that doesn't mean that he's willing to fucking do anything for Dalinar. So you don't have any reason to suspect that he's got Dalinar's best interest at heart. It's that he's got the king's. And so it takes, other events to build up the faith that he might actually also, be building something back with Dalinar, and that their friendship might be coming back together before, obviously, Sanderson pulls the rug on it.
Yeah, I was going to say, man, he does a really, really good job of slowly building our confidence in Sadeas actually being a decent person. Because, I remember I even brought that up to you right before he completely fucks him. And then the ultimate non-apology of, like, yeah, of course, that's what I did. It was the good thing to do. You suck now. And you're done. You're done, bro. That's it.
Shouldn't have been such a piece of shit. I'm sorry. I don't know what to tell you. Be better.
I mean, what, like, the ultimate, like, non-apology of, like, yeah, I did that, but that you deserved it. You need this now. I'm doing you a favor by fucking you.
Like, gives him a list of, here's all the things you did to me. And Sadeas looks at him like, yep. Yeah, all of those. Yeah, those were all great. That was my favorite one. The third one I did to you, that's my favorite one.
And they were all favors.
You're
welcome.
Completely, like the last one, you definitely did not see that coming. I totally got you on that. It was such a good move. Man, I'd been dying to let you, to tell you about that. But then I knew, like, if I told you about it, he wouldn't get killed. So it's kind of torn. But, oh, man, it was a lot of fun for me. A lot of fun.
One of the things that we kind of skipped over, I guess I jumped ahead, but was pretty funny to me is where they're basically talking about Elhokar being paranoid and Dalinar, like, surprised. Sadeas is like, well, why? Why would you be surprised?
Yeah.
Dalinar's like, why? Because, his father was murdered? Yeah, and that's part of it, but you basically baby this dude. He's like, you constantly have guards around him. The way that they move ahead on the Shattered Plains is so strategically safe that it's like, dude, of course he'd be paranoid because you're treating him like he's in harm's way every step of the way.
Yeah.
So it's pretty funny where he's basically blaming Dalinar for or for kind of creating a situation that could be read as.
It's like, I understand his thought process. He's not right. Elhokar is paranoid because he's, like, seeing things, and he's, like, seeing the things like pattern in the the mirrors at night and shit like that. So he's seeing things, and so that's what is making him paranoid. And his dad did get fucking assassinated by people that that were supposed to he trusted, and so that he had no reason to suspect assassination. But this idea that, like, they, like, taking these precautions are just overkill. It's like, no, it's not. Like, you don't know where the assassin in white is. No one found this guy.
Yeah. Nobody killed him. Yeah. And he comes back, too.
Yeah.
So it's definitely super rational to be prepared.
It's like so this guy just rolled through the entire Kingsguard. Like, no one could do shit against him. He was fucking climbing the tops of the wall, sending guys to the top of the wall. Like, he was doing insane shit. Magical shit. Shit that should not be possible. That guy's still out there. So the idea that, we should just let our guard down is preposterous to me.
Yeah. And the whole reason why I brought it up is it was interesting to bring in that element as well, where it's like, well, you're making him paranoid. Sadeas is an interesting, he's kind of Machiavellian, right?
Yeah.
He's kind of stirring the pot in a lot of these different situations where he kind of not necessarily puts people on their heels, but he's definitely calling Dalinar out at every turn.
Yeah.
And it seems like Dalinar is Mr. Honor Code. He doesn't really need to be called out for things, but Sadeas is doing it anyway. He sees that as his role, apparently.
Yeah, and Sadeas, he thinks Dalinar is fucking losing his mind too. Because he's like, Dalinar's like, I like to be careful. Others call that being paranoid. The codes are a bunch of idealized nonsense, Sadeas said, devised by poets to describe the way that they think things should have been. Gavilar believed in them, and look where it got him. And where were you, Sadeas, when he was fighting for his life? Sadeas's eyes narrowed. So we're going to rehash that now? Like old lovers crossing paths unexpectedly at a feast? I love that. Like, really? Like, that is some straight fucking, it's like fighting with your girlfriend. And it's like, like, hey, can you not park behind me? Because, I leave earlier than you in the morning. So when you park behind me, it's a big pain in the ass in the morning. So could you not do that? Like, oh, yeah? Well, 3 years ago, you were mean to my mom. It's like, what? What does that have to fucking do with anything?
Yeah, they're kind of like a little married couple, with their back and forth. Well, they got all this history, right? So it makes sense.
Yeah, that was definitely one of Dalinar's weaker moments where it's like, what? Like, that was completely out of left field. Like, and you were drunk. What are you talking about, fucking jackass?
Yeah, the way it ends up coming out where they kind of go back and forth with that, and he keeps talking about the codes, and one of the main things of the codes is like, well, it's basically it's AA. Yeah. Like if there's war, you're not drinking. That's one of the codes. Yeah. No drinking while there's war, which probably not the worst idea. Especially if you don't. It seems like they know when a battle's coming. It seems like they choose the battle. Right.
Except for when, the assassin in white fucking wiped them all out when they were all drinking and partying.
Yeah, he's passed out on the floor. He was super hammered, apparently.
Yeah. And so
super duper drunk.
He's right to, when you're at war and you have an assassin in white with magical fucking powers that it can easily fucking lay waste to people, that even someone in Shardplate is not much of a match to him, then taking extreme precautions makes sense.
Yeah, that's where it's really interesting about the Assassin in White, because when you see someone Shardblade against anyone, it's not even fair. But then the Assassin in White, that's that level, in another direction where it's not even fair. This guy's abilities are just unmatched. Yeah. And Kaladin seems to be the person that could come closest from what we've read thus far, or at least what I've read thus far, that he may have those abilities and those knacks, and he's got to work at it, what have you, but he's kind of getting there.
Yeah, he's just like not as far ahead as the Szeth. Szeth has had a lot more practice.
Yeah, he's not real happy with his abilities though.
No, they're both they both got that fucking depressed fucking quality to them. Neither one is very happy with their lives. No, just his is more directed at his powers, and killing people is his big thing. He's not a fan of, but
that's what he does.
Yeah, because he's got to follow what anybody who holds a special rock says.
So weird.
Yeah, so stupid.
That's the way it is.
But yeah, and then so he tells him, I'll protect the boy my way, you do it your way, but don't complain to me about his paranoia when you insist on wearing your uniform to bed, just in case the Bar Shindy suddenly decide against all reason and precedent to attack the war camps. I don't know where it gets it indeed. And then Dalinar and Adolin start walking off, and he's like, Dalinar, Sadeas called from behind. Have you found it yet? Sadeas asked why he wrote what he did. Dalinar shook his head. You're not going to find the answers, Sadeas said. It's a fool's quest, old friend. One that's tearing you apart. I know what happens to you during storms. Your mind is unraveling because of all this stress you put upon yourself. So this it reiterates the fact that something fucked up is happening to Dalinar during storms, and we still don't know at this point. If you're going through it the first time, you don't know exactly what the fuck's going on. So he's doing a good job of building that anticipation, but then also that the fact that everybody else, some of them know about it, like Sadeas knows, and so some people have seen or heard about it, and people are talking about it behind his back.
Yeah, I remember that because it wasn't that long ago that I read this the first time. That you're slowly like you're seeing that the shines off the apple with Dalinar here, like he used to be the Blackthorn. Shows glimmers of it, but goes away pretty quickly. People don't respect him like they used to. Even his own son like wishes he could see more glimmers of that. And his son is like worried because people are basically talking about him behind his back.
Yeah, and he thinks he's losing his mind. He thinks that he might be going insane.
I don't remember if I don't think we're there yet, but there's the whole thing where he's basically telling Adolin, like, yeah, if I might be, so you may have to take over, basically, from what I've been doing.
Yeah.
I don't know if we've...
No, I mean, that comes up way later, but yeah.
Okay, yeah. I was trying to remember because I know one of the earlier parts it sort of gets suggested that, yeah, he's definitely different than what he once was. And that kind of feeds to what I was talking about, and they just talked about it. With Gavilar, Gavilar was reading it, was quoting these things and seeing these things. He's like, yeah, well, look what happened to him.
Yeah, he doesn't he doesn't start thinking about stepping down until Adolin calls him out, and then Navani's already in town and shit, because once he makes his decision, he's pounding the rocks when Navani comes up to him and shit like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's right. One of the big things that also gets Adolin worried is he starts talking about an alliance.
Yeah.
Or, basically, and that's like unheard of. Whereas, don't tell anyone else you said that to me.
No, he's talking about like, let's just fucking leave.
Oh.
He's like, let's stop fighting. Let's go home. And he's like, don't fucking tell anybody you're thinking about going home. And he does tell Elhokar about it and shit. And so, he tells Elhokar about it, and then Elhokar tells everybody else about it. Like a fucking jackass.
Wow. That's not good for their culture.
No.
You look like a bitch.
Yeah. Yeah, and so Dalinar has to kind of like backtrack out of that. But, Dalinar, he returned to walk away. Adolin hurried after him. What had that last part been about? Why he wrote? Min didn't write. Adolin opened his mouth to ask, but he could sense his father's mood. It's still hilarious. Like, what? What is that? That didn't make any sense. Write something? He's a man.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Like, he's not supposed to be able to.
It's like, and then picture him saying this as he's walking around wearing a fucking teddy.
Yeah, it's a funny dichotomy, that's for sure.
Yeah, but then, it says, Dalinar's men continued harvesting its meat and carapace as they're kind of walking by the fucking big beast. And you can picture Elhokar going up to each of these guys as they're cutting up the meat. He's telling the same joke. He's got like a stick of butter and he's like, dinner's on me, and like squirts butter on the meat. They're all just like, yeah, it's a good joke, Elhokar. It's real funny. Like the first time you fucking told it. It's the 75th time it's not as funny, but it's still pretty funny. I'll give you it.
Yeah, Elhokar is really looking. He's looking very respectable through the way we portray him.
we really
he's
we
not at
really
all.
make him look a lot better than he already did. But yeah, and then so he's like, Dalinar goes to Adolin, have I ever told you what Gavilar's final words were to me? And he says, brother, follow the codes tonight. There's something strange upon the winds. That's what he said to me. The last thing he told me just before we began the treaty signing celebration. So Gavilar knew something was up, which it's interesting because you learn more about what's going on. Like I can't remember whose perspective you get in the second book. Like I think does it open up with you get like the Pershindi side of it?
Yes. Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, it's one of the early things. It's there's like a Parshindi woman.
Yeah,
and I believe that's one of the earliest chapters because when it opens up like that, you're like, oh, okay, so this is going to be like a prevalent thing. It doesn't really continue so much. At least it hasn't. Maybe it goes back to it, but big part of it's just Shallan, Kaladin, Shallan, Kaladin, Shallan, Kaladin, back and forth.
No, but I mean, does it tell you like why when the Parshindi made the decision to have Gavilar killed? Like I can't remember if that comes up in if it's came up because I don't want to say like exactly what's going on, so I'll skip it because I can't remember exactly what they say. But
yeah, I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, like I like each book gives you more of what happened at that party. I just don't remember what off the top of my head. I can't think of what they tell you happened in the second book. But each book gives you more of what happened at that party. But obviously Gavilar had concerns because he told Dalinar about it. Mm-hmm. But then he's like, I didn't realize that Uncle Gavilar followed the codes. He's the one who first showed them to me. He found them as a relic of old Elhokar, back when we'd first been united. He began following them shortly before he died. Dalinar grew hesitant. Those were odd days, son. Yasna and I weren't sure what to think of the changes in Gavilar. At the time, I thought the code's foolishness, even the one that commanded an officer to avoid strong drink during times of war. So he basically tells him, like, look, he's like, I was wrong. And it took me being drunk, passed out, and my brother being killed as a result, where I couldn't be there to help him and defend him. And he's like, it took that for me to realize that the codes are right. And he's like, I hope you could just learn, to the value of these codes without having to suffer a great loss for you to fucking get it. It's like, but you need to figure out that there's something about these books. There is value in them, even if you can't see it yet.
That's a pretty funny or an interesting emphasis because if I could go back, there's plenty of lessons in my life that I just didn't give a shit if somebody told me and how serious they were about it. I had to go through the shit myself first to realize, basically the lesson.
Yeah.
There's just certain things you have to learn yourself. Some people could tell you time and time and time again, but certain things, you just have to go through it yourself. But yeah, it's interesting the way he's definitely emphasizing here. But yeah, that'll be an effective way to do it, right? Pass out on the floor, wake up, and your brother's dead.
Yeah, that's a rough way to learn a lesson.
Yeah, no shit.
Fortunately for me, like, every time I've gotten blackout drunk, I just made great decisions and was just nailing it. Like, thankfully, just crush it.
So every time you've gotten blackout drunk, you've drank a bunch of water and gone to bed?
Yep. And, and I did a lot of, charitable work and made a lot of really good decisions. Things I don't normally, do when I'm sober. I do them when I'm blackout drunk, and it's just always really good things though.
Blackout drunk and hammered and do a lot of generous things to help people.
Yeah.
That's really funny.
Yeah. Go to the old the boys club and become a big brother. Do a lot of those kind of things. Sign up to be a big brother.
You can't remember any of
you just like the next week, like a bunch of kids show up at your door. Like, I don't know what's going on. Like, you signed up to be our big brother. Like, I don't remember this at all. You sure I did? Yeah, I got your signature. Oh, man, it looks like I was drunk when I signed that. All right, well,
be like,
I guess that's what I got to do.
I think you'd probably go, all right, give me a minute. And then you go fucking bong 6 beers and be like, all right, let's do this.
Your blackout self, like, schedules fucking things for you to become a better person.
That's a really interesting thing to put into like a story form.
You like wake up not worrying about like what you did awful. It's like, what good thing did I schedule myself for today? Like, I better not have like scheduled myself to be working at the soup kitchen this weekend.
I wonder what surprises I have in store for me this week. Some charitable events that I'm going to be involved in.
But yeah,
I have had people tell me like, oh yeah, I couldn't even tell you were like drunk at all. I'm like, well, I don't remember a damn thing. I don't remember anything that happened, so that's surprising.
Yeah, the only time I ever, like, people will tell me that, like, oh, I never noticed when you're drunk. It's like, yeah, because you were drunk too. Like, if you were dead sober, you would have noticed.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's definitely a good point.
But
well, I didn't even notice you were drunk. How drunk were you?
Yeah.
Oh, I was hammered. Yeah. Okay, well that explains that.
Then. Yeah. But then we get, like he goes through and he explains, Sadeas is, why he's loyal. He talks about what we talked about just previously with Sadeas being willing to sacrifice himself, and then he's like, and so that's why I'm here on these plains. It isn't wealth or glory. I care nothing for those things, not any longer. I came for the brother I loved and for the nephew I love in his own right. And in a way, this is what divides Sadeas and me as it unites us. Sadeas thinks that the best way to protect Elhokar is to kill the Parshendi. He drives himself and his men brutally to get to those plateaus and fight. I believe a part of him thinks I'm breaking my vow by not doing the same. And he's right. Sadeas, it's not just, a power thing with Sadeas. Sadeas is also a bastard, and there is a power dynamic to it, but it's not all that. He also thinks what he's doing is the right thing to do.
Yeah, they both basically have the same goal. They just have different approaches, right? I mean, it's kind of what it comes down to.
Yeah.
But yeah, he does also happen to be an asshole, and he looks awful, apparently.
Yeah, and then, but with Elhokar, he's like, but that's not the way to protect Elhokar. He needs a stable throne, allies that support him, not high princes that bicker. Making a strong Elhokar will protect him better than killing our enemies will. This was Gavilar's life work, uniting the high princes. So, and then Adolin, talks about like, I'm surprised to hear you call him brave. And he's like, he is brave. And they kind of go through and he explains, what makes him brave. And again, it's Sanderson doing a good job of this, where he starts to pivot and starts to build back Sadeas up. So he's like trying to give you more reasons to kind of trust him, because he does that good balance where it gives you reasons to doubt him, but then he starts to build the trust back, and then he kind of pulls it away, and he just like slowly but surely, builds it up, takes 2 steps forward, 1 step back, and then at the end, he just completely demolishes the bridge that he built.
It's pretty great too, because it's not like he just went in one direction full bore.
Yeah.
And then sweeps it out. It's more like, well, I'm kind of getting there, which earns much more respect of the curtain being, or the rug being pulled out from under you, because you're sort of slowly like, well, I'm not so sure. Maybe I'm not so sure. But then you're getting more and more confidence. It's building that confidence, even though you're somewhat resistant. So it's actually a little bit more galvanized.
Yeah, it's because you see like there's a number of opportunities that Sadeas could screw him over, and then he doesn't do it. And like, especially when he's put in a position where he's investigating Dalinar, and he doesn't screw him over. And that starts to build some kind of trust up. And then when Dalinar saves his life, and then he's like, let me check out that Way of Kings. And he's like, see what it says. And they start to, it seems like they're coming to an understanding that they're starting to understand each other again. But yeah,
Well,
it's just Sadeas is just manipulating him.
And again, Adolin, with his instincts, I'll watch myself around him, but Father, I still don't trust him. Please, at least consider the possibility that he's not as committed as you are, that he's playing you. Don't get played.
Yeah, and then he definitely, he super rubs it in his face when he's right. With the, I told you so. I told you he was a piece of shit.
Yeah, he does. He does quite a bit. Quite a bit. That's for sure.
And then we get...
I kind of like it.
Yeah.
I kind of like it, because I feel like, it's one of those things that you kind of, in certain circumstances, you kind of have to fight the urge to be like, dude, I fucking told you, because it's kind of a dick thing to do. So I want my characters to do it. I want them to say,
but also, like,
so.
if the I told you so is like, I told you this and now you got us killed, where if, like, you just cost me my life because you didn't believe what I said, then I would definitely be like, before I die, I'm going to get in the I told you so, because there's no point to be gracious at this when the result is you got me fucking killed.
What were his last words? It was my fault.
Yeah. You did this. Right. Feel bad. Yeah. I hope your last 3 seconds suck.
Why would you do this?
But yeah, and then we get the what was it that that he said at the end, something about writing, and he tells him it's a secret and that only Yasta and Elhokar know of it. And he's like, I've contemplated for a time whether I should tell you, as you will take my place should I fall. I spoke to you of the last words my brother said to me, asking you to follow the codes. Yes, but there's more. Something else he said to me, but not with spoken words. And said, these are words that he wrote. Gavilar could write. When Sadeas discovered the king's body, he found words written on a fragment of a board using Gavilar's own blood. Brother, they said, you must find the most important words a man could say. Sadeas hid the fragment away, and we later asked Jocelyn to read the words. If it is true that he could write, and other possibilities seem implausible, it was a shameful secret he hid. As I said, his actions grew very odd near the end of his life. One, I love the fact that he didn't write it, although he might have been able to write. We don't know. But he didn't write that. The assassin in white wrote it for him. And so, he's like, other possibilities seem implausible. Well, whatever implausible scenarios, one of them is true because he didn't write it. And the assassin in white wrote it for him.
Remind me, though, did he... trying to remember how
he told he's like, tell my brother, and he gave that message, and then the Zeth was like, part of my code is I have to honor the last words of a dying man, and so he wrote in Gavilar's blood. He wrote the message
rather than hanging out and waiting for him.
Yeah.
Let me go find this guy, whisper it in his ear, then I get to leave.
Because he can't just let himself get captured. But he did give him the message. But yeah, and then also too the fact that it's shameful. Like, wow, what a shameful secret. He could write words.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
So weird.
Yeah. Very, very strange. Again, man, I would just have to be rebellious in this world.
Yeah, I'd be writing.
That shameful.
I'd be, and I would have no shame. Be like, you guys are the dumbasses that don't even realize that the women have their own secret fucking messages that they're writing to each other in all of these books. And they're not telling you that they're fucking writing these things in there.
I mean, I would also be, man, it would feel very, and I don't know if it's just the deprivation of a strange thing, like what they do, but I would almost want to just like wave at everybody with my left hand.
Yeah.
Hi! Hi!
Yeah. You'd be fine.
Look at this.
I mean, it's only them.
The dudes.
them ladies that can't fucking be showing them fucking
those
sexy left-handed fingers.
Yeah, very strange.
So
very
arousing though. Like I still, man. Ever since I read this book, I get so turned on when I see left hands now. So hot. They're right. That is one thing. I didn't think about it until I read these books, but now definitely left hands. so much hotter than right hands.
Well, and it seems like in this world, it would also just be like, I don't know, very unused. So it'd be like a little baby hand.
Yeah.
The left
Yeah.
hand. A little baby hand.
Yeah, there's
super soft skin because it's never
always
in
gloved up.
or...
And probably got lotion fucking inside the gloves.
Super supple. Yeah.
Them left hands are badass. And he's like, and what does it mean, those words? It's a quote, Dalinar said, from an ancient book called The Way of Kings. Gavilar favored readings from the volumes near the end of his life. He spoke to me of it. It's obviously that's the title of this book too, but I think all the titles of the different books are also titles from actual books in story. So like Oathbringer, there's a book called Oathbringer, Words of Radiance, Rhythm of War. I think that there's a book or something along those lines.
Isn't Oathbringer a sword?
Yeah, that's a sword, but I think there's also like a book that gets written. I can't remember. I could be wrong, but I thought that I saw that somewhere that every title is also a book that's in the world or something like that. I could be wrong on that. It could just be like maybe like the fifth book is going to be a title of a book that's in the world or something like that. I can't remember exactly what I saw, but I think it might be the case that, you know, there's books that represent each title. But anyways, you know, and he says the book was used by the Radiants as a kind of guidebook, a book of counsel on how to live their lives. And he's like, the Radiants, Stormfather, Adolin thought, the delusions his father had, they often seemed to have something to do with the Radiants. This was further proof that the delusions were related to Dalinar's guilt over his brother's death. And also, too, the fact that, you know, it's the Radiants are seen as these, you know, betrayers, basically, because they, you know, laid their arms down. They were supposed to be the protectors of the people. And then they just, you know, like Dalinar has that vision where they all come up and just set their shard blades down. Take off their shard plate and leave their swords and walk away. And so they kind of left their position.
By the way, Words of Radiance could just be a jumble, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like Words of Radiance could be Can Ride or Diner Can or some other things that would come out of the word
Diner
Radiance.
Can? Just from Radiance? I was like, where's the W? And it's like, I feel like a bunch of words are being left out. Yeah, words.
Oh, no. Words of Radiance. So it's just a jumble of Radiance. So you just move it around.
I don't know how, like, your brain came up with a word jumble out of Words of Radiance, but like I yeah, like
those are the Words of Radiance. Can Ride, or wait, what was it? Yeah, Can Ride and Diner Can. And then, I don't know, some other ones. If I took some time, I could find some other ones for you, but
sure,
probably not real pertinent since we're not really even talking about that book right now, but, you know, whatever.
No, I'm sure it'll probably be big in book 5 as word jumbles is going to play a major role. And that's going to be the missing key.
Yeah, I could see that. Why not?
And
it's great.
Then we get this part cracks me up because he's like, you know, metal footsteps ground on the rock behind. Adolin turned, then nodded in respect as the king approached, still wearing his golden shard plate, though he'd removed the helm. He was several years Adolin's senior and had a bold face with a prominent nose. Some said they saw in him a kingly air and a regal bearing, and women Adolin trusted had confided that they found the king quite handsome. Not as handsome as Adolin, of course, but still handsome. But I like that because Adolin doesn't think that, and Elhokar is handsome. He's like, I've had women tell me that they thought he was handsome. I don't, but they said that he is. Like, I'd take their word for it. And
I love his additional qualifier that, but not as handsome as me, but still handsome.
Yeah.
But then saying it in the third person, so sort of removing himself. Not as handsome as Adolin.
Yeah.
Me.
Yeah.
Not as handsome as Adolin.
Yeah.
But, you know, handsome.
Yeah. Yeah. It's fucking perfect. I mean, I'm telling you, he just thinks everybody's fucking butt ugly, that he's just walking around like, I look so goddamn good. Everybody else is fucking hideous, but me, god damn, I look good. A good looking fucking dude.
Yeah, apparently he's got it in his mind. He's got it going on.
Like, I mean, there's women that tell me, like, some of these other guys, these butt ugly looking dudes are okay looking. And they're attractive but they're not as attractive as me. But yeah, and then so, I suppose the king said either way, I did want to thank you for your bravery today. It appears that I owe you my life yet again. Keeping you alive is something else I try very hard to make a habit, Your Majesty. I'm glad for it. Have you looked into the item I asked you about? He nodded to the girth, which Adolin realized he was still carrying in a gauntleted hand. I did, Dalinar said. Well, we couldn't decide, Your Majesty, Dalinar said, taking the strap and handed it to the king. It may have been cut. The tear is smoother along one side, like it was weakened so that it would rip. I knew it! I told you so! Like, yeah, you fucking did it, dude. Fucking fake-ass fucking punk.
I like the idea, like envisioning this and seeing an actor like really ham it up. Like, all right, dude. Like where it becomes basically pretty obvious. Like, whoa, you're a little too enthusiastic about this, bro.
And then Elhokar is just like dying. He just wants to tell him because he's like, where he's like, man, let's not jump to conclusions. It's like, dude, it was cut. I can see it clearly. Look at it right there. You can see where someone, like, what they did was they took a knife, they held it just like this, and then they cut it, and like their knife wasn't real sharp, so they'd go back and they sharpened it even further, so then it was like cut real smooth. And then my hand cramped up, and I mean, his hand probably cramped up.
Yeah, I love the idea that like he's just way over the top, too enthusiastic.
Yeah, it's fucking great. But then he's like, surely you don't think the Parshendi did this, Dalinar said, sounding shocked. I don't know who did it. Perhaps someone on this very hunt. Adolin frowned. What was Elhokar implying? The majority of the people on this hunt were Dalinar's men. And he's like, you don't believe me. You never believe me. So, it's like, he's just like, dude, I know it was cut because I did it. And he just wants to tell Dalinar. It's like, look, I see, this is my proof that you just never believe me, because even when I know for a fact it was cut, you still doubt it.
Yeah, it's funny to envision like just how frustrated he must be in his mind because it is cut.
Yeah,
he knows it was cut. Well, we'll bring in some more experts. Fuck the experts. I'm the expert.
Yeah.
I know this fucking thing was cut. Someone's trying to kill me. That's what you need to worry about.
Yeah. And then, so he's like, when he goes and walks away, Adolin's like, Father, did you see? I'll speak to him about it, Dalinar said, sometime when he isn't so worked up. But I will speak to him, Adolin. You look into the strap and go gather your men. Because Elhokar looked at them with suspicion. So he's like, man, it's like, this dude's looking at us like fucking sideways. Which he wasn't. He wasn't looking at them with suspicion. Yeah, I think, well, to an extent, there's a little bit of suspicion but it's not because he thinks that they cut the strap. It's that, why don't they trust me?
Yes, there's a point.
Why are they? Why don't they see what that the strap was cut, because it clearly was, because I did it.
Well, oh yeah, that's where it is. Elhokar narrowed his eyes, looking at Dalinar, then at Adolin. It was almost as if the king were suspicious of them. The look was gone in a second. Had Adolin imagined it? Stormfather, he thought. So yeah, he basically went as far as like, wait, what the fuck? So they both, he saw the look.
Yeah.
That's what he was like, hey, did you see? He was like, I'll talk to him, whatever, get to the bottom of it.
Yeah. And then when Adolin walks away, one of the cool parts is he's like, the lad's breastplate still bore a web of cracks, though it had stopped leaking stormlight. With time, the armor would repair itself. It could reform even if it was completely shattered. Even if they just have a piece of it, they can fucking grow it all back. So like this fucking armor is next level.
Yeah, that's a game changer. When I read that, I was just like, whoa, wait, what? Like, so, I mean, you can break it, in battle and make it happen, but still the thing forms back.
Yeah.
It's fucking incredible.
Yeah, as long as it's got Stormlight, it can fucking repair itself. So, and I mean, they don't even need to do anything. They don't even really know. They wouldn't even know what to do to how to fix it.
Yeah.
It just fixes itself.
Yeah,
because it's not like they can make their own new shard plate. They don't know how to fucking do that. So the only reason they can still continue to use it is because it fixes itself. But yeah, and then so we're back at to finish the chapter. We're back in Dalinar's head, and he's like, the lad liked to complain, but he was a good son as a man could ask for. And so it's one of the things that Dalinar kind of runs through, like all his positive qualities in his head, and he obviously has a tremendous amount of respect for Adolin, but Adolin, he tends to his view of how Dalinar sees him is completely off. Like he seems to think like Dalinar doesn't have as much respect for him than he does. He like takes the fact that Dalinar is kind of a hard ass as far as like the codes and that kind of shit, and he takes that as like some kind of slight on him personally.
I like the way that's written, because I think that's quite logical, because he's his father's son in the way that you can't see yourself through someone else's eyes, and he's trying to live up to the fucking Blackthorn, and he's not going to be able to, or at least he probably thinks he's not going to be able to. As self-confident as he is, and he's so super good looking, walking around as Teddy as well.
Yeah,
but
way better looking than Elhokar. He's had women tell him, like, and like he respects those women.
Yeah, their viewpoint on things is very it's very clear. There's a lot of clarity there.
He's had women like tell him like that Elhokar is better looking, but he's like, yeah, but I don't respect their opinions.
Yeah,
they don't like the women who have opinions that I respect all think I'm better looking.
Those are the really bright ones.
Yeah.
The really, really,
look, I granted there are some super stupid bitch ass women that I fucking hate, and they have terrible ideas about what beauty is. They like ugly things. They're ugly people, but I just don't respect their opinions.
Okay, yeah, I guess I see where your animosity is coming from there, Adolin.
He just, he respects smart opinions that acknowledge how good looking he is.
No, I can definitely I can feel where he's coming from with that, because I feel like that a lot with people with music, where it's like, man, your taste is shit, and it's because you don't like the same things I do.
Yeah.
So your taste in music, garbage.
Yeah, it's true. Like my taste is great, and so when people don't like the things that I like why wouldn't they want to have like a great opinion on things?
Yeah,
and have great taste. Yeah. Like I don't. Yeah. But some people I think that they fear greatness and they fear being high quality. I think they have a fear of success and greatness. It's a fear of a success. Amazingness. Yeah, they fear it. And so they don't have the same opinions as me.
I will say that is a better route to go. That's a better route to go than going the route of these fucking people have no sophistication and can't rise to the occasion of hearing the notes that I hear. Yeah. It's too complex for them.
No,
it's too edgy.
Well, I'm just more humble than most people, than everybody, really. I'm just the most humble person that's that you've ever met, and that's ever been born. Nobody's more humble than me, and part of what makes me so great, in my opinion, so great, is the fact that I'm so humble that I can acknowledge that fear is the only reason. Fear of greatness is the only reason you're not as great as me.
One of another popular approach with food, people don't like the same food you like. It's their one-note taste buds, their unsophisticated palate. Right? Yeah,
they were born with shitty taste buds. That's not their fault.
Well, not necessarily. They could also grind them down by smoking cigs and drinking garbage.
No, that doesn't affect your taste buds. If anything, it can enhance them.
No way that's true. There's no way that's true.
Yeah.
No way that's true.
Gives them a extra layer around the sides and stuff. Like, yeah, it just latches on.
Extra
Yeah.
layer?
Mhm.
What are you talking about?
That's how that stuff works.
So cigarettes like open up gills on the side
Yep.
of your tongue.
Yeah.
That's
It improves things, like it wraps around your taste buds and strengthens them, makes them stronger.
Because they're having to power through.
Yeah.
So you're like building muscle.
Yeah.
For not the tongue, the taste buds.
Yeah, the taste buds are so much stronger physically.
Wow.
They're physically stronger.
Well, wouldn't it have to be physically?
Yeah.
They're psychologically and emotionally stronger.
Yeah. That too. That too.
They can put up with more with more psychological bashing and okay. All right.
But yeah, then kind of finishing up, we get the Rashadium, more on them, and you get to kind of see that how advanced they are. Like, he's able to kind of talk to it, and like the things, like they're like, well, he won't take his extra meals, and Dalinar's like, no, he will this time. He only does it if he doesn't think he deserves it. And he's like, you deserve it. And
talk about humility.
Yeah.
Yeah, the horse itself has humility.
Yeah.
As and basically what's being sort of emphasized here is that it has like human personality traits. It has loyalty. It's got like interdependence with the rider they choose.
Yeah.
And then also when we see it in battle, things no joke.
Yeah. Yeah. And this was the part where he brings up about how many men that are getting chewed up in these bridge runs. He's like, the bridge crew waited silently, resting as the king and his procession crossed. Like most of Sadeas' bridge crew, this one was constructed from a jumble of human refuse. Foreigners, deserter, thieves, murderers, and slaves. Many probably deserved their punishment. But the frightful way Sadeas chewed through them put Dalinar on edge. How long would it be before he could no longer fill the bridge crews with suitably expendable? Did any man, even a murderer, deserve such a fate? So Sadeas we were right, and when we were talking about that, he is fucking chewing through a lot of people, to the point where Dalinar's concerned about it.
Yeah, I guess I forgot about that part, but yeah, that's interesting because it's funny because when we pick it up, it's almost like, all right, so this is the norm, not realizing that it's actually relatively new that they've been using bridge crews in this way. Because again, when you're thrust into the world, it's like this seems like this is normalcy. This is what they do. It's so cool too, the innovations that Kaladin tries to attempt, and how that goes over basically is pretty great. But obviously we get there.
Yeah, and then as he's thinking about this, he thinks about a passage from the Way of Kings, and he's like, I once saw a spindly man carrying a stone larger than his head upon his back. The passage went, he stumbled beneath the weight, shirtless under the sun, wearing only a loincloth. He tottered down a busy thoroughfare. People made way for him, not because they sympathized with him, but because they feared the momentum of his steps. You dare not impede one such as this. The monarch is like this man, stumbling along, the weight of a kingdom on his shoulders. Many give way before him, but so few are willing to step in and help carry the stone. They do not wish to attach themselves to the work, lest they condemn themselves to a life full of extra burdens. I left my carriage that day and took up the stone, lifting it for the man. I believe my guards were embarrassed. One can ignore a poor shirtless wretch doing such labor, but none ignore a king sharing the load. Perhaps we should switch places more often. If a king is seen to assume the burdens of the poorest of men, perhaps there will be those who will help him with his own load, so invisible yet so daunting. So Dalinar obviously takes that to heart. I mean, you see it with him when he's thinking about why aren't, shard blades used for more menial tasks, and then, when he goes in, he's breaking up the rocks and that kind of stuff. And with how his differences on how he treats his bridge crew versus Sadeas, he definitely lives this code that that he talks about.
You talking about Kaladin?
Dalinar. Dalinar definitely lives this code that he's talking about.
What's interesting about that passage as well is it's also emphasizing, like, for the king also has pressures, and but nobody feels bad for the king, right? It's like nobody like respects his burden.
Yeah, it's basically saying, if you want the support of your people and their help, you need to be, not be so much above them. You need to be willing to do, the same work as them to show that,
well, and
like you don't view like the tasks that the lowest of the low are performing, that you're willing to do those, that you don't see those tasks as beneath you.
Well, and yeah, he brings that up to Sadeas. Dalinar brings that up to Sadeas in the sense of, you shouldn't have your soldiers do anything you would not willingly do.
Yeah.
And Sadeas is like, yeah, fuck that noise.
Yeah. No, I'm with Sadeas.
his,
like, I'm not
response.
fucking eating grill.
Or, I don't remember the other one.
Digging ditches or anything.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not doing any of that
ditches.
shit.
Okay. Well, then you're not, the suitable king according to the Way of Kings.
I'm better. I would be an emperor.
Where'd that humility go?
I'd be a humble emperor.
Oh, okay. It comes right back in. Okay.
I'm humble about, being better.
The way humility works is you just say it.
You wouldn't get humility. You wouldn't get
it. Not humble enough?
No.
No?
You're not. You have to be really, really great and really good at stuff to be humble.
By the way, Dalinar would be a huge Audible guy. Huge.
Yeah. He would.
Right?
Yeah, he would listen to this book so many times. He just every night he'd just be fucking listening to it over and over again.
Yeah, man. I mean, he's trying to crack the code, and he's putting in the work by just listening over and over and over, and apparently memorizing sections from the book.
He's like, hold on, man. I've been listening to these fucking unprofessional fucking people that I just grabbed to read me this book. I could have professionals reading this shit to me, and they do all the voices and everything. The first time he heard someone doing a voice, it's like, hold on, what was that? What did you just do there? It's like I was doing I was like doing that character's voice. It's like that was amazing. Like it felt like you were him.
Yeah. He would be he'd be a premium member if that's a thing.
Dalinar would listen to this book and was like, I don't sound like that. Guy makes me sound like a fucking punk.
I don't look like that. I'm all squat and boxy.
You call me square face? Say the wrong nose. What does that even mean? I have the wrong nose.
That's a great question. That is a great question. What does that even mean? Well, according to whoever stated it, it was wrong. That's what it means. Sanderson's descriptions of dudes' faces is just fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fucking hilarious. But yeah, so next week in 2 weeks, we will have another Kaladin chapter. We'll be getting a flashback, and then we also are going to get the Kaladin with the bridge crew, where he, saves some of their lives, and he gains, a lot of the respect from, some of them, because he goes out there and he shames a lot of them, but then he starts saving some of their lives during a bridge run, and that, starts to win over the bridge crew.
I did want to mention, still on this chapter, that he basically had to hide the fact that he was listening to the book. The book did not have a great reputation, and not just because it was associated with the Lost Radiance, but stories of a king doing the work of a menial labor were the least of it. Other places that, to me, would have been like, they need to burn this book, is that light eyes were beneath dark eyes.
Yeah.
Literally saying that in the book is like, well, no shit, it'd have a bad reputation.
Yeah.
I mean, you're literally, that's right in the face of the culture. The culture is light eyes are on top.
Yeah.
And if you fucking have it written that it's the other way around, that could be a big problem. But most people don't read, so apparently it's not a big issue.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, let's keep this little under wraps. Definitely don't tell old Brown Eyes about this book.
Old Brown Eyes?
Let's keep it away from that guy.
They'd be like, wait, who's Old Brown Eyes? Anyone with brown eyes.
Yeah, anybody who does not have light eyes is Old Brown Eyes. Do not let any brown eyes read this book. We don't want to start a revolution here. Which is funny because there's other parts of the world that that don't have, respect for the different eye colors, where the fucking cover the left hand and shit. There's different cultures. It's not a worldwide thing.
Yeah, that's a big cultural difference, though.
Yeah, that's a massive one. I think if I was like a brown-eyed person in one of these fucking lower ranks, be trying to move to a country where they did not have this custom.
Yeah, the Great Lake, whatever, the Midwest, the Upper Midwest, the Great Lakes. Sounds like a pretty chill place to live. Pretty laid back, just eating fish head soup and basically having your feet all soaked all day. But other than that, just chilling.
Yeah, it's basically like Minnesota, except for not cold as shit.
Cold.
Yeah.
It's Minnesota in the summer.
Yeah.
All year, maybe, perhaps.
But yeah, that pretty much wraps it up for me on 15. I don't have anything else on.
Well, I was going to say though, the big question of what does he say? What does he write? What are the words, the most important words that a man can say? What are they? Are they I'm more humble than you?
That's a very important one. Like,
is it I told you so?
That's high up there. You really want to get that in, like, and you don't get you don't get all that many chances to say it, so you really want to take advantage of the ones when it comes up.
You know what it probably is? It's not your fault.
It's
hey, it's not your fault.
I just
your fault.
Sharded in my shard blade. get the wet wipes.
Can someone take care of this? What is it? I sharded. Again?
It's like, where do you think the name came from?
Yeah, exactly. That is where it came from. Shard plate.
It's like, like, what are we going to call this plate? Oh, the plate you are always, sharting in? Yeah, well, it's shard plate.
Like, well, it does more than that. Nah, just hold your shit. Yeah. It's designed to hold poop.
Nah, that's the plate you're fucking spraying fucking shit all over. You're sharting on it. This is a shard blade.
Yeah, maybe the first guy that wore it, that was basically the purpose he used it for. It wasn't like he didn't live in a culture with a lot of battle. He just put it on to take a shit. Yeah. He just kept filling it.
They were originally like their first adult diapers.
Shard plate, which covers from head to toe.
Covers up the smell so that they
gives you the ability to run and jump and do all kinds of crazy things.
Old people and their fucking decrepit, it gives them the more mobility, and they can go out longer where they don't have to worry about shitting their pants and stinking up the place.
God,
yeah, nailed it.
Oh man,
nailed it. We've definitely nailed the etymology of the shard plate in this world.
By the way, if that's also an issue for an individual in this world, again, living in the Great Lakes seems like a great place because old boy's basically in water all day. If he's just pooping all over the place, it just
pop in, fucking shake it out.
Jesus. Well, I'm glad that in this chapter, it didn't even cover that, but it still dominated a big part of the episode.
Yeah, we really brought a lot of maturity in this episode, and I'm really, really proud of the maturity level we continue to bring.
Well, one thing that I can if I can assure anyone of is there's more where that came from.
Yeah, so shove that down your face. All right, we will see you guys.
But in a real humble way.
In a humble way, yeah. Shove that down your face humbly, from a humble heart. We will see you guys in 2 weeks. Peace out.
Yep.